What's going on? You're watching Chat Sports 2019 MLB Trade Deadline live here on YouTube. I'll be your host today, Mitchell Renz, with our analyst, Harrison Graham. We thank everybody for coming along for the ride today. So we're going to be talking a lot about trades, a lot about rumors, some news, and then we're going to open it up for some questions. So make sure you guys are using that hashtag MLB so producer Alicia can put you on the screen. Harrison, let's talk about some trades that are going down right away because that's why y'all are here.
Yeah, and it's been kind of a weird trade deadline period. Not a ton of huge names on the markets, but a couple of trades happening in the last few days, a couple in the last few minutes here as the Reds and Athletics have made a move. The A's add Tanner Roark, veteran starting pitcher. Reds, some TBD there. They're going to get a couple of prospects, we imagine, maybe just one prospect in return. Roark certainly not, a frontline starter, but for a smaller market team like the A's, getting that depth rotation piece as they try to make a wild card run here.
I mean, right now they are slotted in there to be the team that would make it for the AL wild card. They got a half-game lead over the Tampa Bay Rays, who are playing solid baseball, but maybe this is the kind of move that, can set them over the edge, and I don't know if they're going to be catching.
Yeah, they're certainly not a top-end threat in the American League. They're more that second tier of teams. Maybe they get hot in the playoffs. You never know. Roark, 6-7 on the year, ERA 4.24. So again, number 3, number 4 type of starter there, but a good depth rotation piece for Oakland.
Let's see another move that just kind of went down here. The Brewers, they receive 2 pitchers. The Giants, they get Mauricio Dubon.
Good guess. I'm not sure. Drew Pomeranz, obviously the name to keep in mind here, his career has not progressed well. Was an all-star back in 2016. This year, though, 2.9 ERA over 5.5. Milwaukee's desperate for pitching, but if you're expecting Pomeranz to come in there and be your savior, that is not exactly what you're looking for there. So not a headline deal right now, but one that just came in the last couple of minutes.
I mean, you're looking at the Milwaukee Brewers, who I think last year, you could argue, might have been a little bit disappointed with their postseason performance. Now they are 1 game back of the Phillies and Cubs because right now they're tied with both of those teams at 56 and 50. The Brewers are sitting there at 56 and 52. When you look at the teams that make it far in October, you need to have pitching.
Yep.
And sure, Pomeranz, I think, has been struggling this year, but maybe you could add that extra arm. Maybe he's the kind of pitcher that you need that can get you over the top in October because the bullpen, starting pitching, that's what's going to win you a title.
And maybe he's a long man type in the playoffs where he's not cracking your rotation, but maybe he's a guy who can come in, eat some innings for you, give you 3 or 4 innings out of the bullpen. Again, he's not a frontline starter. ERA over 5.5 this year. Has not had the type of year he wanted, but that is the move that the Brewers make before today's deadline.
So you're talking about eating. Now I want to show a pitcher that's got some serious lettuce on those shoulders. Look at this. Noah Syndergaard. Are the Mets keeping Thor? The report came out that they pulled Thor off the trade market. Harrison, what do you got for me?
Well, yeah, that's the report last night, and for good reason, a couple of reasons. One, you trade for Marcus Stroman a few days ago if you're the Mets,
which is
an unbelievably stunning move considering where the Mets are right now. But I think the thought process now for the Mets is, okay, you're only 5 or 6 games below 500, and that NL wildcard hunt is very mediocre this year. So if you make a move this year, great to get into the mix. If not, you're setting up for 2020 because Stroman has a year of arbitration. Syndergaard has 2 more years of arbitration. So I think the thought process here is maybe the Mets feel like they're not super far away to contend starting next year. So there's no reason you move Syndergaard after you trade for Stroman, in my opinion.
I totally agree with you on that. I think the only thing is, I think somebody needs to tap the Mets on the shoulders and be like, y'all are the Mets. I think that's
you ain't
part
the
of it.
Yankees.
Yeah, you're not the Yankees. You're the little brother there in New York. So Thor, I think, has had a little bit of a bumpy season this year. That 4.10 ERA. He does, though, however, have the highest fastball average this season. He's still clocking it up there at around 97 miles an hour, but the 7-5 record. But the real issue with Thor has been being able to stay healthy and really been able to eat up those innings. But when he's on the field and he's pitching, he's towing the rubber, the dude is hard to hit.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw last night that clip. He threw that 100-mile-an-hour sinker. He's got stupid stuff. Like this guy, if he can get things figured out, just from a mental standpoint, he's got electric stuff. I mentioned, you saw on the player card note there, his last 4 starts, ERA under 2. So he's starting to get things back on track here. His ERA was floating around 5 at the deadline. He's almost got it below 4. So he's been rolling as of late, as you see there in his last 4 starts. 26 years old. I'm betting on this kid's upside. So if I'm a team, I'm still trying to trade for him, but it seems that the Mets, they're shifting their focus to 2020 as they try to bolster that team.
I think it's smart because why would you – I think, honestly, if you sold Noah Syndergaard right now, you'd kind of be selling low on the fact that he really hasn't had that great of a year.
At least lower than you could down the line.
Because you know this for a fact. If Noah Syndergaard were to go to the Yankees or like the Astros or the Dodgers, he would be an absolute freak of nature on one of those teams. But we're going to keep the rumors rolling, keep the show going here. We're going to talk about another Mets pitcher. That's Zack Wheeler. I think we can both agree. The pitcher, way more likely to get dealt.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one makes sense if you're the Mets because before the Stroman trade, the Mets, from a public perception, they're in sell mode because they're not really a contender this year. But I like what they did in terms of, okay, you bring in Stroman. We're going to decide to keep Syndergaard. But we can still get something back in our farm system. Zack Wheeler is the guy you move because he's not going to be one of your top 2 or 3 rotation pieces moving forward. So, hey, you move Wheeler to a team like the Astros, maybe an Atlanta Braves type of team gets interested, and you get something back for him, but then you focus toward 2020, as we mentioned, with them keeping Syndergaard and trading for Stroman. So they're kind of in that mode where they've bought some already, and now you sell a little bit as well, but you don't sell your top guy in Syndergaard. Zack Wheeler is the guy you move.
No, I totally agree. And I think when you look at the Mets pitching rotation over just the last 3 years, I go in every single year. I look at the Mets pitching rotation. I'm like, man, if all these guys can stay healthy, they have arguably the best rotation with all those arms. Yeah. And yet, some guys get hurt, some guys go down, or unfortunately, I think Zack Wheeler, you're just not as talented as some of those other pitchers for the Mets. Let's talk about I almost said the New York Giants, the San Francisco Giants. And are they going to sell? Are they buying? What are the Giants doing?
Well, you and I, since we've been doing our rumors videos the last couple weeks, it changes every day seemingly.
It's amazing. It's hot and cold like Katy Perry.
3 weeks ago, this team was not in the mix at all. They've won 20 out of 26, so they're a game above 500 now. Only 2.5 back in that second wild card spot. So, on the surface, it's, hey, we've made a move here. We're hot, but there's a lot of traffic there. You don't have a lot of assets for your future, so maybe they're making the calculated decision, okay, realistically, we're not beating the Dodgers in the National League in the playoffs. Like that's a pretty tall order.
I mean, they have a lot more World Series than the Dodgers do. The Dodgers' last World Series in 1988.
Yeah, but it's just gonna be tough in the National League. I thought a week ago they had shifted gears to buying, but the report now is they are considering selling, and they've got pitching talent to move. Bumgarner, obviously, we know what he brings to the table, especially in the postseason. A couple of bullpen arms, and Will Smith and Tony Watson, and especially with how baseball's trending today. You can get good return on quality bullpen pieces, and the Giants have a couple of them in Smith and Watson. So we'll see what they end up doing. I think it'll be one of those deals where the Giants are either going to stand pat or they're going to sell if they get overwhelmed. I think at this point they're not going to buy.
So I mean, when I think about these two pitchers though, Madison Bumgarner or Will Smith has been the better pitcher this year, and I would actually argue he's probably the best relief pitcher right now on the market. If you're telling me who would you rather have in October, Harrison, Madison Bumgarner or Will Smith, who would you tell me?
I'm still going Bumgarner.
You're still going to go Bumgarner?
I know it's been a couple of years, but especially now, he doesn't have to be an ace for you. If you're the Astros, you plug him in as your number 3 starter behind Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole. So I think you're feeling pretty good about that. I mean, Will Smith's certainly valuable. I would argue a Kirby Yates is the best reliever on the market, but he's certainly there in the mix. But I would still lean Bumgarner if I'm a team looking for an October pitcher. He's proven it in the past.
Sounds good. If you guys look down there at the bottom, it says breaking news, the Nationals traded for Hunter Strickland. Strickland used to be a Giant. So we're going to give you guys these details here on this trade that just went down. The Nationals, they ended up getting Hunter Strickland. And then the Mariners, they ended up getting Aaron Fletcher. So, Harrison, you're looking at this move right away, right? This one just went down here on Chat Sports. If you guys are watching us live, shout out to you on YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe. Click that big red button. Turn on notifications so you know when we go live. We're going to be breaking down a whole bunch of news. We're going to be live, for the entire freaking thing here, Harrison and I. So, Washington, they get Hunter Strickland. The Mariners, they get Aaron Fletcher, both pitchers. The Nationals, when I sit here and think about the NL East, right? Right now, they are a half game up in the wild card over the Cubbies, over the Phillies.
And they're another team that's been playing really good baseball. They came out of the gates very slow in April and into May, and as of late, they've been one of the better teams in the National League.
Who do you think won this trade, the Nationals or the Mariners?
Well, if you look at Strickland's history, I mean, last year had a pretty good year. ERA just under 4 out of the bullpen. Hadn't pitched much this year. Has missed some time with injury. I think this is Washington making just a kind of a minor type of deal to get a guy who can come in the 6th, 7th inning, get you three quick outs, and help expand to the back end of that bullpen. This is not a huge, crazy breaking news type of trade, but a minor deal that, you need those type of guys to piece together those 9 innings, especially in today's game. If a guy can only give you 5 innings, Strickland's the guy who can come in and pitch the 6th for you.
So I'm looking over here in the comments section. We asked who won the trade. Tyler Burbeck says, laugh out loud, Hunter Strickland to the Nats. Jay says the Mariners. Tyler says the Giants. Jim is going to go with Strickland, is very injury prone. And a nut job. Hey, you know what? Sometimes you got to get a nut job. Not one. Nobody did. And then we have hashtag MLB.
Type W if you think Washington won this trade. Type S if you think Seattle won this trade. We'll get some shout-outs going. We got Derek saying Seattle. Got Tyler saying the Giants. D, a team said no one did, LOL. So
Fair.
Got a couple of things coming in. Again, yeah, that's not a move that's going to, make or break a team for you. If anything, it's just a guy, hey, maybe we bring him in here. He can give us something out of the bullpen.
So continue to comment, guys. Who won the trade? Did the Mariners win the trade, or did the Nationals win the trade? It's Mikey is saying Washington. Levante Rogers is also going with Washington. Clogan, Washington. The vlogger, is going with the Seattle Mariners there. And then Tyler saying Bumgarner is not leaving. I'm a believer that if a team really wants to make a playoff push, I'm going out and get Madison Bumgarner.
Yeah,
I understand he's got no trade clauses. He wants to go to a certain amount of teams. But to me, the Giants, I get that they're playing well, but I don't know if they're going to be able to actually compete. And if I'm Bumgarner, I'm like, hey, I'm getting up there in age. I haven't thrown over 200 innings in like 3 straight years. I want to go to a contending team, and that's what I would want to do. So that's my 2 cents on Madison Bumgarner. So guys, remember to continue to comment live on YouTube. If you guys have questions for us, make sure you guys use hashtag MLB so that way we can get your questions live here on the show. If you guys want to give Harrison a follow on Twitter, it's at Harrison1033. Got it right. And then I'm at Mitchell Renz 365. Yeah, hey.
First time you've ever gotten that right.
I was just going to say, if I was a baseball average getting your Twitter right, I'd be batting 100 like a solid contact hitter that strikes out a lot. Let's move on now to the Houston Astros, because are they going to bolster that rotation? And I would argue that they have the best 1-2 punch with Verlander and Cole in the entire bigs.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Then Wade Miley having a nice season for them as well as their number 3 guy. It looks like the latest report is they're more looking at Zack Wheeler, who we already talked about there. They don't want to give up Kyle Tucker, their top prospect. That's the thing with the Astros. They're very calculated when they make their trades. Robbie Ray is another guy they're interested in, but they're not going to go trade for him if that means they have to give up Kyle Tucker. And again, they feel great about the top of that rotation. Verlander, Cole, and again, Wade Miley. They need that number 4 type of starter, though, because in playoff rotations, 4 starters, and that's it. You don't need a 5th guy there. So they got 3. If they get a 4th guy, if Wheeler or Ray is your number 4 starter in the postseason, you're feeling pretty good about where you're at. And again, this is what their top 3 of their rotation looks like. Verlander, I'll take him over any guy in October at this point in his career. I think he's pretty electric when it comes to winning time. Garrett Cole consistently throwing 100 miles an hour. Wade Miley having a resurgent year. He's their lefty arm. Robbie Ray would be nice to get that second lefty in that rotation. You can stagger, these guys a little bit, but that is where they are sitting right now.
I think when you look at this rotation, for me, this is actually one of the reasons why I think the Astros are actually the favorite over the New York Yankees in the postseason. Like, I understand the Yankees are a fun team. They hit the ball over the fence. They smash. But their starting rotation scares the heck out of me.
It's brutal. Domingo Germán's 4.08 ERA is their best starter right now. And that guy's never pitched in October. Tanaka not having a good year.
Tanaka just gave up 7 runs in 1 inning.
Severino hasn't pitched all year. He's been hurt, so they desperately need a starting pitcher.
Yep, so we're looking at 2 pitchers here. Zack Wheeler versus Robbie Ray. Game started, Wheeler's got 20. Robbie Ray's got 23, and then you're going to look at the wins to loss. Robbie Ray has the advantage. He's got 9 wins. The ERA is at a flat 4 there for Robbie, and then K's. getting more strikeouts. So I think Robbie Ray, the fact that he could get maybe a few more strikeouts would be a better pitcher potentially for the Yankees than, let's say, the Astros. But if you had to pick, who do you think is the more likely pitcher to be headed to Houston? Zack Wheeler, Robbie Ray. Who do you think?
I think it's Wheeler because, again, the Astros do not overpay on trades typically. They're very calculated. They like keeping that farm system, one of the better ones in baseball. They learned from that Carlos Gomez trade 4 years ago where they gave up one of their top guys, and that did not work out well for them. So Jeff Luhnow, A.J. Hinch, that front office is very calculated when they make moves. So I think a Wheeler is a more likely move there. And again, Houston's not like the Yankees where they need to overpay for a starter. They're pretty close to being set right now. I think you go Wheeler for moving lesser pieces there.
No, I agree. I did a segment yesterday on Chat Sports, so hopefully you guys all caught it, but I did 5 World Series contenders that need to make a move, and I put the Astros on that list simply because when I think of the top 3 teams right now battling for that World Series, it's the Dodgers, it's the Yankees, and then it's the Astros. So give me a player that you guys think that the Astros need to add at the deadline. I want you guys to comment below. So if you're watching us on YouTube, which that's probably the only way you're watching us right now, comment below who you think the Astros should add at the deadline. And I'll be looking here in the comment section. Tyler's saying Noah Syndergaard should go to the Dodgers. Interesting. Wheeler. Wait, Zack Wheeler comments, we want Wheeler. Or, no, it's Z Wheeler, we want Wheeler. You know what? Hey, sometimes that's what you're going to get here. No one. I don't think you should add anyone. Wheeler or Mad Bump. That one's from Jordan Heron. So make sure you guys are commenting below. We're going to continue to keep the show rolling here. And also, there's some breaking news. The Diamondbacks, they get Zach Gallen from the Seattle Mariners. From the Marlins. Oh, okay. From the Marlins. So
get that fixed for you guys.
Cool.
We'll get some notes on Gallen in just a little bit.
Clogan says they should add me. You know what, Clogan? I'll be between you and me. How about this? If we could figure out how to do that, Clogan, where I could get you on an MLB roster, if I could get myself on an MLB roster, then we could make some serious cash. So, Clogan, do you subscribe to the channel? Because if you do, I know a guy. We might be able to get you on an MLB team. I'm just saying. All right, you guys want to keep the show rolling here? What you guys think here on YouTube, Harrison?
Yeah, let's keep it rolling. And again, with the Astros, it's that 4th type starter. I think that's what they move here. Here, let's get to the trade here, though. Gallen heading to the Diamondbacks, again, from the Marlins, not the Mariners there. We'll get that fixed for you guys in just a second. A smaller type of trade here, 1-3 on the year, 2.72 ERA. The key here is 23 years old. So this is a younger type of guy that has some upside. Again, his ERA is under 3 as a 23-year-old. And this is a guy, the Diamondbacks aren't winning this year, but this is a pitcher you can put in your rotation moving forward for future years if you're Arizona.
So, interesting fact here. Z says I could be a water boy with him. So, hey, if the Astros want to sign me to be the water boy, I totally wouldn't mind that whatsoever. People are also giving some shout-outs. They're saying the Yankees should trade Clint Frazier. I think it's another name that we'll talk about, a little bit here later on the show. And then
not a ton of bats. At this deadline. It's more been about starting pitchers and relievers. The outfield-infield market, you got Hunter Pence, the DH from the Rangers, is one of the better bats out there.
Shout out to Hunter Pence. I went to a Rangers game about, I'm going to say 2 months ago, and if he hit a home run in that inning, I got a free grand slam from Denny's. Hunter, I'm still using those coupons, man. People were throwing them away. Why would you throw away a free breakfast? I have absolutely no idea. I love food, and anytime I can get it, I'm all about it. So, guys, we want to know who your favorite team is, and I'm going to give some shout-outs to the people who start commenting below who your favorite team is. So, Harrison, while these comments roll in on YouTube, tell me your favorite team. I already know who it is, but maybe they don't, and tell me why they're your favorite team.
Houston Astros are my team, and I grew up in West Texas, and everybody out there was a Rangers fan. And
I thought you were a Rangers fan.
No, I'm an Astros fan. My dad grew up
He just switched about 10 minutes ago.
No, did not happen.
Came in with a Ranger shirt on
Dad
today.
grew up in southwest Louisiana, small town of Shreveport. I don't know if you've ever driven through there. Not much going on.
I've been to Shreveport, I'm going to say 10 times in my life.
Oh, really?
No, absolutely not. Nobody's been to Shreveport.
I've been there a couple times. There's a couple things going on there.
I disagree. So we're going to give some shout-outs here. We got the Cubs, the White Sox. New York is... there's 2 teams
Giants,
in New York.
Braves.
Knicks goes the Braves. Adam says the Giants. The Giants is from...
Mariners. That would be brutal being a Mariners
Phillies.
fan. You're a Mets fan.
I am a
Tell
Mets
the folks
fan.
about that.
I'm a diehard Mets fan. So my dad played for the Mets a little bit in the 80s, and then my grandparents were actually, they are, I think, the most popular picture on the Mets Instagram from last year. Relationship goals. Got him a jersey that said together since 1957. I also see Terefri Brush says the Braves. Will Fisher goes Brewers. Junior's Toy Show says the Twins. Do you have Twins? I'm not sure. Somebody says the Warriors. I think that's the NBA. And then Terefri again is going to say the Braves. Also to Steve Munoz, you said Tom the Giant. So one thing with YouTube, it blocks cursing. So if you guys just want to drop an F-bomb like Steve did, it got blocked, use Tom instead of the F word. So make sure you guys continue to shout out your teams. Let us know in the comment section below on YouTube. So we got another trade rolling in here. Ooh, this one's fun. Corey Dickerson traded to the Phillies, the Pirates. That one's still TBD. I think the Pirates right now, they're looking for maybe Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao would be a good move there for the Pirates.
Yeah, they need something to get that organization going. But Dickerson, good bat here, hitting .317 this year, limited time in 43 games. But you look at his last couple of years, 300 here last year, a couple of years ago, hit for 282. Back in 2017, he was an all-star. So this is a guy, Phillies needed a bat, some pop in their outfield. Again, one of those teams just sandwiched in the middle of that NL wildcard race. There's about 6 teams within 3 games. Phillies at a bat here. So
yeah, I think if the Phillies, though, if they need to add anything, I mean, oh my goodness, they need to add a left-handed pitcher. Like, they have no pitching.
Robbie Ray would
right
be
now.
a great addition.
I agree there. Like, I talked about the Phillies. I'm going to say like a week ago, I was like, man, these guys need to add some pitching. When you think about the Phillies off season, right? Like, you go out, you spend over $300 million on Bryce Harper. Yeah. I understand the injury to McCutchen. That's unfortunate. But this Philadelphia Philly team right now, they are tied with the Chicago Cubs for the NL wild card. If they don't make the playoffs, I think it would be a major, major disappointment. And I get it. They call it the city of brotherly love. I grew up in Philadelphia, or near the area. If the Phillies do not make the playoffs this year, it's not going to be sunny in Philadelphia until baseball season starts next year. So what I want you guys to do, I want you to comment below, will the Phillies make the playoffs this season? Right now their record is 56-50. They're tied with the Cubbies for that final wild card spot. The Brewers are just a game back in the NL wild card. So what I want you guys to do, comment Y for yes or N for no. Will the Philadelphia Phillies make the playoffs? Jennifer Lewis says yes. Eli says no. He also has, it looks like a picture of a Cowboys, so maybe that's why. Derek says no. Tom, no. Nice. Eli, no. Tyler says the Giants again. I don't know why. Jennifer's going with yes. Jennifer, if you're single, so is Harrison.
No,
Sean,
I'm not.
no.
Fake
X says
news.
no. And will the Phillies make the playoffs? Comment Y for yes or N for no. All right, let's talk about another trade that looks like it just went down. The Diamondbacks, Zack Gallen from the Marlins. And, well, actually,
this is just the full details of this trade. Jazz Chisholm heading to the Marlins there. I assume a prospect there. And number 1 prospect, associate producer Tom, handling those duties today. So that's pretty good return for the Marlins to get their number 1 prospect for. Gallen. We talked about his numbers at 1-1, 2.73 ERA and 7 starts this season, only 23. So he's a young and up and comer. But anytime you can get another team's number 1 prospect, that's a successful trade.
Hey man, I agree with you. I also have saw this interesting comment below, and due to my horrible ability to read, I've lost who said it. But somebody said that they're not a fan of any team in the MLB. So he said, persuade him to root for your team. So why should somebody become an Astros fan?
I think the Astros have the most exciting young team in baseball. When you got Carlos Correa, you got George Springer, Alex Bregman. Have you seen this new guy, Jordan Alvarez, the rookie, who's just hitting dingers every single night? He's fun to watch. Their rotation is electric. Those guys have fun. They make baseball fun. A lot of these teams, even good teams, the game is slow. It can be boring. The Astros are not a boring team. They play a fun brand of baseball. They hit 1 through 9. That bullpen is good. That's my pitch. You got Justin Verlander. You won the World Series a couple of years ago. So, hey, man, I think they play an exciting brand of baseball in a sport that desperately needs excitement at times.
Well, and if you want excitement, don't become a Mets fan. So who won the trade, the Diamondbacks or the Marlins? We want you guys to comment below. Here, Chat Sports, we brag, and it's not even a humble brag, like it's just a straight up brag. We are the most interactive sports YouTube channel, period. Point blank. And we want to get to know what you guys think. So, because I understand that Harrison's talking a lot, and I understand I throw in my 2 cents here or there, but we want to actually know what you guys think, because that's what makes these shows fun. So who won the trade? Type D for Diamondbacks or M for Marlins. Let's see those D's in the comments.
Yeah, M's are M's are.
You keep yours under the table.
Yeah, that's where it's gonna stay. Lots of M's in the chat there. A couple of D's flying in. There's Tyler with the D. Got Eli with the
easy.
D. Jay is something to show. Let's not do that here.
Eli's throwing double D's. Hey, I'm all about that.
I'm with the chat. I think Marlins. I would say won this trade. Also, one more note on the Jazz guy, number 59 overall prospect. So not just the number 1 prospect in their system. He's top 60 prospect in all of baseball. So pretty good return there.
That Jazz guy?
Yes. His name's Jazz something.
Jazz Michaels. I think he's a famous figure skater in an old Will Smith movie. Totally made that up. I have absolutely no idea. Jazz Chisholm to the Marlins. Diamondbacks receive Zack Greinke. Let's talk a little bit more about some news, some rumors going on here on today's show. Whit to the Cubs. Harrison.
Best outfielder on the market, so it makes sense that teams would be interested. The Cubs obviously would like to add another bat to that outfield. The Cubs are just in a weird spot because they win that 2016 World Series. A couple years later, they lose Arrieta. Some of the guys, you bring in Darvish. He hasn't been great. Cole Hamels has been hurt. So you've got a lot of talent, but the question is, where do you try to buy for the Cubs? Are you trying to get pitching? Are you trying to get outfield? Merrifield's certainly the best outfielder on the market, and Kansas City, for good reason, has a very high price tag on him, because if you're the Royals and you trade him, what are you selling to your fan base? Like, you need to at least be like, okay, we got 2 of their top 3 prospects in return, or XYZ, whatever the case may be, and Merrifield is by far the best chip that Kansas City has at this point. So we'll see if this deal gets done. As of now, for the most part, the sellers have been holding firm. They're not selling for chump change. They want to sell big, especially since there's no waiver deadline this year. So I think teams are holding out hope that teams overpay as we get closer to that 3 o'clock Central trade deadline, which is just over an hour away.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't really feel bad for any Royals fans. I don't know if I've ever even met a Royals fan, but ever since they beat the Mets in the World Series, man, I'm just like, you know what, whatever. If Whit wants to go somewhere else and actually win, I don't know if that's the Cubs. Is the Cubs window, I understand they're still in this win now mode, but when the Cubbies won the World Series, I was like, man, this is going to be a team that's going to wreck the MLB for the next 3 to 5 years.
They just lost some juice, man.
And what the heck happened?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, losing Arrieta was part of it, but it's like these young guys, the Kyle Hendricks and all these other guys, they just didn't keep improving. They've kind of stayed the same or regressed in certain areas. So the Cubs are one of those teams, while they're in the mix, you don't view them as a high-end contender right now. They're kind of a team that, we hope we make the playoffs and maybe we get hot. That's kind of the category they're in right now.
So would you agree that Whit's probably the top outfielder who could be traded?
I think so. Castellanos a few weeks ago was trending up, but he's not hitting as of late.
I just think he can play in so many different areas on the field is what makes him interesting.
Who, Castellanos?
Yes,
100%. Play infield, play some outfield for you. So, and he's a younger guy, I believe, than Merrifield, so he's intriguing. Clint Frazier's an older guy. He's certainly a player that teams are going to be interested in as well. But I think Merrifield is the guy. Dickerson, already a player who's been on the move, and of course Cole Calhoun hits for power, doesn't hit for average.
I'll tell you what, I got to have this awesome opportunity where I got to watch the Angels against the Tigers live on YouTube. So shout out to MLB for giving us that opportunity here at Chat Sports to do that. Calhoun hit an Oppo Taco that was just absolutely insane. He really got to show his power. He really was able to put it in there, and even though I did get to see one of the Tigers' only wins, and you're talking about a bad team right now, the Tigers.
One of their only wins.
Oh, my goodness. The Tigers, so what? The Orioles last year had 47 wins. Do you think the Tigers get the 47 wins this
30,
year?
31
They're at
right
31 and 71 or 32. Let me look here.
They're right on pace for about that 45.
31
46.
and 72. Oh, my goodness.
And The Tigers have the record for the worst season in MLB history. They went 43-119. I can't remember what year that was.
Put that on your refrigerator.
Could they have the 2 worst seasons in Major League history? The Detroit Tigers. It's been all downhill since Miguel Cabrera started to age and they traded Justin Verlander. But if you're the Tiger, Shane Greene's a guy that they're going to look to move potentially. So, they certainly need to sell as much as they can and get some assets in return. Let's ask a question for you guys. Who's going to win the National League Central? Because I think this is the most mediocre division in baseball right now. You got the Cardinals, you got the Cubs. The Brewers are trying to make a move. They've got a good lineup, but they need some pitching. They added Pomerantz earlier today. But who is going to win the National League Central when it's all said and done? Who do you think gets there?
So let me just, before I give my answer, okay, we got the Cardinals, the Cubs, the Brewers, the Reds, and the Pirates, right? So the Cardinals, they're in first place right now with 57 wins, 49 losses. Then you got the Cubbies at 56 wins, 50 losses, right? Then you got the Brewers 56 and 52. The Reds, the Pirates, sure, they're a great boxing matchup, but I don't really think that they're actually going to be able to compete to win the NL Central. So before we give our answers, here's a quick glance at the NL Central standings right now. The Cardinals are on top, but the Cubs, the Brewers, they're nipping there at their heels.
I think on paper, again, the Cubs have the most talent, but as we've been talking about the last year and a half or so, that talent has not really shown that much on the field. I mean, sure, they've made the playoffs the last several years, but they have not reached their potential, so to speak. With what they have, they should be a true World Series contender, and yet they're hovering just slightly above 500. I still think the Cubs will find a way to get it done, but it could be any of those teams, really, out of the top 3.
Even the Brewers, I think, should be a little bit disappointed. I mean, a great year kind of came out of nowhere last year.
Got to have pitching, man. They got no pitching.
So I'll read some people off here. So we got Mac. He's going to go with the Cubbies. Ronald Waller, 23, is going to go with the Cardinals. John P. is just throwing up a question mark. Hey, you know what? If you think they're going to win it, go for it. Mac says F you. All good. Donnie says the Cubs. August says the Cubs. Donnie, once again, repeats himself with the Cubs. Jay is also going to go with the Cardinals. So who will win the NL Central? You're going to go the Cubs. I'm going to go with the Cardinals because I think that they just play solid baseball when it matters the most every single year. And I also think that the Cardinals farm system, coaching staff, managers, they have probably the most complete farm system all the way up to the bigs, every single year. They don't really ever have the big name player, but they get it done every single year. Let's talk about another rumor here going on. The Jays, are they dealing Aaron Sanchez? Because there's reports are getting a lot of calls on him, Harrison.
And that would be puzzling to me because he has not had a good season. You see that ERA over 6. I mean, it's been kind of a disaster. He's 3-14 this year, and I know wins and losses isn't a major stat anymore, but if you're 3-14, that probably means you're not throwing the baseball very well, and that has been the case for Aaron Sanchez. I think if a contender wants to buy super low, you trade for Aaron Sanchez because you're betting on his upside, and maybe he's a long man for you in the playoffs. He is not going to be in a rotation come October this year, but maybe down the line he could be. And this year he can eat up some innings for you down the stretch and in October. I mean the numbers are not good.
I mean, when you're 3-14, you have an ERA that's over 6. Your strikeout to walk ratio that's 1-6.8. You're just not missing bats.
When your whip is closer to 2, that's problematic. And it's a bit surprising because back in 2016, he went 15-2.
I know, it's funny because we're going over the graphics here on the show, and you're like, wait, is that right?
Yeah. I was like, wait, Tom, are you sure he went 15-2? He's like, yeah, he did. And look, you see the strikeout to walk. It wasn't great back then, but certainly much better than what it is now.
The ERA is just continuing to climb.
Yeah, and it's the total opposite of what you would expect. He's 27 now, which means when he was 23, he was better than he is now. And usually when you're for a major league starting pitcher, 26 to 28 is when you hit your prime, and that has not been the case for Aaron Sanchez.
Well, I think when you also look at a pitcher that has Aaron Sanchez's stuff, he's never been that high strikeout pitcher, and maybe when he's losing some velocity on that fastball, he's not locating as well, and that's why you start to see the ERA start to climb a little bit. So Blue Jay, breaking news, Harrison, is actually a bird. Just found that out today. So what's your favorite bird? Type B for Blue Jay, C for Cardinal, or type O for an Oriole?
I like Big Bird.
You know what?
I'm a big Bird guy. How about that?
I could see you being Big Bird.
Give me a costume.
Just so you guys know, my seat is like up here, and Harrison doesn't actually have a seat. He's sitting on the floor. So so you guys know,
we had to get the booster seat for Mitch. He's a little below the rest of us.
Yeah,
so that's what we're working.
See, I think I'm
Chat
average
Sports.
height. I just think that you walk into a room and you're like, wow, that guy's effing Big Bird. So
life's too short to be average, Mitch. That's all I gotta say.
Oh, life's too short to even hit for a 300 average, I guess. So I'll read some comments here. Clogan's going with you. He says Big Bird. Diego says C for Cardinal. A lot of Cardinals here in the comments. Somebody says BOC. I think that's also cheating. Max says me too. Who the hell is Tony Kemp is from PJ?
Tony Kemp's
Let's Go O's is from Bird Flock, so I think that one's pretty good. Another one, nice. Could Harrison be Big Bird? So, like, you guys know, here's the thing. My mother is convinced, and I had a conversation with her, I went home this weekend, that Bigfoot is real. Okay?
Is this the same mother that does landscaping at 61 or whatever?
My mother's an interesting woman. I love her to death. Mom, if you're watching, I know you're not. I love you. But could Harrison actually be Big Bird, okay? So imagine you're walking down the street and you see a man who I think Harrison's about 6'9", 320 pounds. And if he just put on a beak, I'm telling you what, I think he can get away with it. So is Harrison Big Bird? If you guys comment Big Bird below, we're seeing Goatman30 saying, yes, sir. Max says no. What are your thoughts on the MLB show so far? I think it's been kind of a slow period. Hope for some bigger things to happen here.
Well, let's just be honest. This deadline, that was a possibility. There may not be a lot of action, but typically if there is, it's in the last 15 minutes. I mean, we're 54, 55 minutes away from that 3 o'clock Central Time deadline, 2:06 right now here in Dallas. So it should start to ramp up in the next 20 minutes or so. Will Madison Bumgarner get moved? Will the Mets get talked into moving Noah Syndergaard? I don't think so at this point, but there's still names out there, but these deals typically get done at the last minute. And you can see the tracker up there on the screen, 53 and a half minutes and counting as that deadline approaches.
Yep, and as the deadline approaches, we're going to be live for you guys here on YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe. Click that big red button underneath your screen there if you're watching us on YouTube. Turn on those notifications so you know exactly when we go live. All right, let's talk about the New York Yankees, and could they be getting Ken Giles?
Ken Giles, interesting guy. He's got to revitalize his career up in Toronto. If you remember back in 2017, had a pretty good year for the Astros, was a total disaster in the postseason to the point where A.J. Hinch totally had to bench him in the World Series. I mean, could not use him whatsoever. Has an electric fastball, hits triple digits, has a bit of an elbow issue. He just had a cortisone shot, but teams are still interested. That's a little concerning anytime you're talking about pitchers and elbows. That reeks of, oh, this guy's going to have Tommy John down the line. But the New York Yankees certainly could use pitching help. They need starters, though.
I was just going to say.
Their bullpen's good.
Their bullpen is really solid.
You can't ever have enough relievers. I understand that, especially in today's game, but they need starting pitching. And I'm not saying you just completely overpay for average starters, but Ken Giles, I mean, where does he even plug into the Yankees rotation? Is he their seventh inning guy? I don't know if that's worth giving assets up for. I would look more to the starters market if I were the Yankees, but this is what Giles gives you. 14 saves this year, that ERA 1.5. Again, that strikeout walk ratio, very good. Whip around 1. He's got good stuff, and it seems like he's turned things around after that 2017 postseason debacle. But that's where we are with the Yankees and Ken Giles. I still think the Pinstripes need to add a starter.
I think they need to add a starter, and to be honest, I thought a starter that could have fit really well with them was Robbie Ray of the Diamondbacks, but it appears that they're dead. The talks for Robbie Ray going. It seems like the Diamondbacks, there was a lot of rumor talks about Zack Greinke. They're now dead. Robbie Ray, dead. Harrison, I mean, we know the Yankees need to get a starter.
Yeah, and D-backs kind of a team, too, that are stuck in the middle in the National League. Do they buy? Do they sell? Do they stand pat?
I think they should
appears
sell.
They want it. Yeah, I agree with you. They're unlike the Giants. You could talk me into buying, but the Diamondbacks not so much.
I mean, they're 54 and 54.
I mean,
500.
Robbie Ray is a nice starter, but Clint Frazier plus 3 prospects. Okay, this isn't Greinke. This is right? Robbie Ray. His ERA is just under 4. Yeah, he's a lefty. He's got decent stuff, but he is not electric. And we put in the notes there, no chance the Yankees are giving up that much for really a number 3 or 4 type starter on a contending team.
No, and I think when you look at the Yankees, I'm also starting to be a believer. Am I the only one that's starting to think that Clint Frazier might be just a little bit overhyped?
Yeah. The reason his value's decent is it's a thin outfield market. It's a
Sure.
thin power market in general, so you feel like you can
The
maybe
Yankees
get a lot
have plenty
for
of
him.
outfielders.
Yeah, I mean, that lineup is loaded. You can move Clint Frazier and you'll be just fine. But, yeah, I'm with you. He's certainly not, some top player in Major League Baseball. He's a solid outfielder. That's what he is.
Well, I mean, when you look at the Yankees, though, I think when you're talking about a lot of these other teams here that the Yankees, the Yankees are competing with the Astros. They're one of the top teams in baseball right now. And I talked about the Yankees a little bit on yesterday's show that I did, one of the top teams that need to make a move. But they are one of the favorites to win the World Series because of their ability to just freaking smash. And they need to be able to add more pitching because I think if they could add pitching, they'd be up there a little bit higher. But the Dodgers have the highest odds right now, Harrison, to win the World Series, which doesn't really surprise me. They have the best player. Maybe not the best player, the hottest player in baseball in Bellinger.
Yeah.
You got the Astros, the Yankees, the Braves, the Twins. Then you also got to look here at the Indians with plus 1,600 odds, the Cubbies, the Cardinals, the Brewers, and the Nationals.
Yes.
How about those teams right there? I don't mean to cut you off. The 5 teams that are on screen right now, which of those 5 teams has the best shot to win the World Series?
Before the Bauer
You guys
deal,
comment below, too. I'm going to start
Before
giving
the
out some
Bauer
shout-outs.
deal, I would have said the Indians.
Yeah, what are
And I don't think they're completely selling there. They get Yasiel Puig. They needed a bat. Clearly, they were tired of Bauer's antics. That's the reasoning there. But man, move him in the offseason, right? Like you need his starting pitching down the stretch. And so I mean that's a streaking team right now. It looks like they're going to catch the Twins.
If you're tired of his antics, go out and get a player that licks bats. Like, Yasiel Puig is a player that has all the antics in the entire world. And he's going to bring the fire. I get it. And I think it's funny that he got traded yesterday.
And still gets in a brawl.
still was fighting. He is a guy who's going to play for his team, which I will always respect about Yasiel Puig. He plays the game hard. But I want Bauer. He is way more valuable than Yasiel Puig is in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So I'll say the Nationals now. They're playing good baseball. They got a good starting rotation. If they add another bat, maybe, I could see them maybe making a run. You circle back to the top 5, though. I think the Astros are the best well-rounded team in baseball, but the reason the Dodgers are favorites are because the National League is just weak, man. Like, they have the easiest path to the World Series, so getting there is half the battle, right? That's why their odds are up there, and then at the end of the day, you just have to win a 7-game series.
So who's going to win the World Series? Are the Dodgers going to make it to the World Series 3 straight years and then lose again? We want you guys to comment below. So Brian says the Yankees. Let's see who else here. We got the Orioles. I will say no to that. We got the Cubs. We have another one voting for the Cubs. The Astros from Wandering Texan. I thought that the Yankees were going to win the World Series, but I will say this, all right? Let me find this one. So Kimmy says the Cardinals, the Dodgers, the Braves, the Twins. Whoever was the person, Antonio Hanna, I'm looking at you. If you think the Orioles are going to win the World Series, then I have something very, very special for you. You need to get started with our sports sponsor, MyBookie. Go use our promo code CHAT100, chatsports.com/bonus. So if you do this, if you put down $100, you're going to get $100 for free. What I want you to do then, okay? Antonio, I'm still talking to you. Put down that $100 on the Orioles to win the World Series, my man. And if it happens, you're going to be set for life. Like, straight up. You're totally good. And you don't have to worry about making I'll say, interesting bet, Harrison, because of that bonus money. So MyBookie's hooked us up. Go to chatsports.com/bonus. Use that promo code CHAT100 for 100% deposit bonus. And if anybody does get started with MyBookie, hit me up on IG at Mitchell Renz 365. Hit up Harrison. We'll give you guys some shout-outs. So while you're watching the show, you want an easy shout-out? Tell us that you signed up with MyBookie. One more time, chatsports.com/bonus. Do it! Let's get it going. All right, MLB Trade Deadline. Looks like we got another one coming in here from the Brewers, and we got some Twins action. So Brewers, they're going to get some cash considerations. The Twins, Marco Diplan?
First of all, there's an S on the end of that name, sir. Marco Diplan, minor leaguer. Nothing too much to see here. This is just a minor type of deal. I always love the cash considerations. Well, here's a couple $100,000. Like, what does that even mean?
Do you remember the player that got traded for like 6 bats and like double bubble? It might have been like 6 years ago. Probably not the best story, actually, but the Brewers, they get cash considerations, Twins. They receive Marcos, Dipplin. Let's talk about maybe a little bit more
a little more background on Dipplin. Again, minor type of deal. 3-4 in Double-A with an ERA of... if I could find it here, ERA of 5. So, again, he's a Double-A pitcher. This is nothing much to see here. But bigger trade here. See the lower third there. Jed Jerko to the Dodgers as they add another bat.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. Like, what do the Dodgers really need to add? Like, their starting pitching right now is lights out. Like,
they need bullpen.
Yeah.
Need bullpen
But their
arms.
starters are
loaded. Lineup is loaded. Jerko having a really down year, by the way, hitting below the Mendoza line at 196, just 2 home runs
the Mendoza
this year.
line. I haven't heard that in so long. So, what else we have? Somebody asked, have the Yankees made a move yet? No. The New York Yankees
and
have
going back
not.
to that World Series conversation, I'll say this right now. They don't add a starter, they won't win the World Series. They're not going up against the Houston Astros, maybe even the Red Sox if they get hot, and winning a 7-game series with that starting rotation. It's just not going to happen. I'll say this right now. They keep saying Severino's going to come back. It's August tomorrow. Like,
holy crap.
Can you even expect Severino to be a key part of this year's postseason run at this point? I would say no. So, like,
I mean, he struggled in the postseason when he did pitch in the postseason. What, a year ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah,
like,
he wasn't good last year.
He's a young kid. Like, people were like, oh, he's the ace, and he is. But is he 24 yet?
Yeah, does not have the postseason experience, and again, has not pitched all year, so they got to make a move. Again, Jerko going to the Dodgers from the Cardinals, not having a good season. Last couple years he's been good, though. 262 last year with 11 home runs. 20 home runs back in 2017, 30 back in 2016, so maybe the Dodgers can get him back on track. Probably a pinch hitter type of candidate.
I want to give a special shout-out to Mac Barbush. So, Barbush, shout out. Thank you for the super chat. If you guys want to get a shout out on today's show, or you want to super chat us, it's the thing that looks like a dollar symbol. You click that button, we'll put you on the show. We got a lot of comments flowing in. Shout out to over the 200 people watching us live here on YouTube. And if you're a new watcher and you're like, man, I like this baseball content, click that subscribe button. Make sure you turn on the notifications so you know exactly when we go live, because we're going to be breaking down a whole bunch of stuff. The deadline starts in, 43 minutes?
Deadline ends.
God, oh my God, I'm losing my mind.
Minutes.
Deadline ends in 43 minutes, and that's when things are about to get, a little bit more exciting here. So, if you're a first-time watcher, this is what I want you to do. If this is the first time that you watch Chat Sports, I want you to type the number 1, okay? If you don't know what that number looks like, don't ask me either. So, type the number 1 if this is the first time that you've watched us here on Chat Sports. And if you're a loyal watcher and a loyal subscriber, I want you to type S, okay? So, if you've been subscribed to Chat Sports for a while, I want you to type S. Or if this is your first time watching, I want you to type the number 1. Can you guys do that for me? So, Donnie says 1. So, Donnie, make sure you subscribe. Joshua, make sure you subscribe. Ronald, subscribe. And once you guys do subscribe, let me know. I'll give you another shout out. So Brian Yoder, oh man, don't ever trust somebody with the last name Yoder.
Yeah, that's
says
what people
2.
are saying.
Brian says 1. Max says 1. If this is the first time you guys are watching,
keep the ones flying in.
Chat Sports, type 1. So to be honest, guys, we do a lot of NFL stuff. We do a lot of NBA stuff. We do a little bit MLB here and there. Harrison and I are like, hey, we want to continue to do more baseball stuff. And if you like our baseball content, make sure you guys subscribe. So keep subscribing. We'll continue to pump out some videos.
The rumor out there, the haters and losers are going to pull the plug on this thing if you guys don't subscribe. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. I wanted to hit on a couple of trades that happened.
Donnie, just subscribe. You're my man.
In the last couple of days. Let's hit on the big one last night. Of course, Trevor Bauer being the key part of this 3-team deal. He goes to the Reds. Indians get Yasiel, Puig, and Rays and a couple of prospects. And the Padres get the Reds' top prospect in Taylor Trammell. The Padres are going to be compiling prospects until the end of time.
Well, I think they're going to try to get prospects until Machado's 10-year deal is up. Like, I mean, I was pretty surprised that Machado went to the Padres.
Money, baby.
Oh, sure, money talks, and if you're gonna throw $300 million at me, like I love Chat Sports, but hey, $300 million. But you're looking at this deal right now. Who do you think won, the Reds or the Indians? I don't really want to put the Padres in this, so. For everybody who's watching us right now, who won this trade? Because I think out of all the trades that have happened, sure, you could argue the Mets and Stroman, but this one really, really took me by surprise. So if you think that the Reds won this trade, Okay, I want you to type the number 1. I think the Indians did 2. If you're going to type 3 for Padres, hey, maybe you're just a Padres fan. So who won the trade? Harrison, tell me who you think.
This is the most puzzling deadline type of deal I can remember in a long time because the Indians are playing really good baseball. And yes, you get Yasiel Puig in return, and he's going to provide some power and good outfield play for you. But Trevor Bauer is a top-line starter. He's not an ace, certainly, but he's one of the better starting pitchers on the market. And I get it, the antics. He launches that ball over the center field fence the other day. I think that was the final straw for his time in Cleveland.
Well, it's funny because Puig gets in a fight. Bauer's
launching balls over the fence.
Let's just swap them.
Yeah. We're getting rid of Bauer. Y'all are getting rid of Puig. But I just don't know because the Reds certainly aren't winning this year. I mean, if they can convince him to stay long term, maybe they're the winner of this trade, but I don't think we'll know the winner of this trade until, 18 months from now.
Sure. I mean, if Puig goes out and just absolutely smashes in the postseason.
Yeah, they're the winners.
But also, then you could easily be looking at the Indians because the Indians right now are 2 games above the A's for that wild card spot, but they're just behind.
They're catching the Twins.
Well, that's what I mean.
They're making
just
moves.
Behind the Twins. So, if you go back, or if we're going to look here in October and we're like, oh, man, the Indians, they couldn't pitch to save their lives, we're going to go back and look at this trade and be like, you guys shouldn't have traded arguably your best pitcher. And I'll still probably put my money on Kluber. But,
I'd still take Kluber as that game 1 type of guy, but Bauer's right there. I mean, he has progressed through his career. And again, you mentioned those AL wildcard standings. I mean, the Indians are making the playoffs. They were hovering around 500 back in late May, early June. They're 18 above 500 now. They're streaking. I think they're probably going to catch the Twins, but they're for sure going to be a wildcard team. It'll be interesting to see out of the Twins, Indians, Red Sox, A's, and Rays, which 3 of those 5? Because we got the Angels up there. I don't think they're going to make a push. You got those 4 plus the Twins battling for 3.
So you already said the Indians, right? So you already said the Indians. They're making the playoffs.
I think they're a lock.
So out of those next 4 teams, who's in?
Angels are out. I'll still say the Twins, who aren't on the screen, will at least be a wild card team. If the Indians catch them, I still think they make it as the wild card.
A's, Rays, or Red Sox.
I'm still going to go Red Sox. I'm still going to go Red Sox. I know they have not had the type of season they wanted, but they've got the talent. At some point, Chris Sale has to start pitching well, right? Can he be this bad?
I've been saying it all year.
Maybe they make a move. I mean, they'd certainly like to add another starter as well. I'm going to go Indians and Red Sox there are your 2 teams. Indians or Twins and Red Sox, depending on who wins the Central.
I'm getting choked up talking about baseball. I'm so excited that we get to do it here at Chat Sports. Let's talk about another one. My eyes are watering. I might be sick. I don't know what I'm
crying about your Mets here?
Yeah, let's talk about the Mets because they made a kind of a questionable move. I like the Marcus Stroman move because, what are you going to get? Are you going to get the high upside in Stroman, who pitched really well this year, or a year ago where he had an ERA over 5?
Yeah, and you didn't give up a ton there. I was reading some of the details on these guys. Good prospects, but not super highly touted prospects in Kay and Woods Richardson here. And again, you have him under control. You've got another year of arbitration. Mets are a big market team. They can sign him long term. And now I like it even better now that it appears they're going to keep Syndergaard. So they're saying, we'll see what happens this year. Maybe we make a push in the NL wildcard. If not, though, we're set up very nicely for 2020. I think that's the Mets mindset here.
If you could tell me what the Mets mindset is, and if
that's not their mindset, I don't know what it is. I'll put it that way.
I mean, what the heck are the Mets doing? What are they doing?
They are a little bit delusional, aren't they?
Excuse me. Again, I get choked up when I talk about the Mets. So, every single day, I shouldn't say every day, I call my grandparents at least once a week. My grandmother, the first thing she asks me, what are the Mets doing? I'm not kidding you. My grandmother watches the Mets live. She watches them on replay. And it's one of those things, it's really hard to be able to tell your grandmother, you know what, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Mets are
Sorry,
doing.
Grandma, they just suck.
Right?
I don't know what to tell you. They're just not
a very good team. What's harder to predict, what the Mets are doing or what Bill Belichick is thinking?
It's a good one.
It's a good question. It's a tough one.
Sounds like a future weigh-in.
Let's see here. They're losing their mind is from Donnie. Let's see.
You should be Scott. Not sure what that means.
I should be Scott.
Donnie, the Tigers are rebuilding. Yeah, that's fair to say. They've won 30 games this year.
If they're not rebuilding, if they're in win now mode,
then they're not doing very good.
Not doing the right thing. So what are the Mets doing right now? Are they going to be buyers? Are they going to be sellers?
How about this hot take of a trade idea coming in from Daniel Perez? Bumgarner for Altuve and Springer.
I think you have the only way that happens is if that's Jerry Springer. Because you're not giving up.
Altuve and Springer ain't going anywhere.
Yeah,
if the Astros get Bumgarner, that's centered around their top prospect, Kyle Tucker.
Have you ever been to Jerry Springer?
I've watched Jerry Springer on what's that game show he does?
I think the show is called Jerry Springer.
No, not that one. It's that stupid dating show he moderates now.
Oh, now I have no idea.
Not a fan. Baggage, yes. Baggage. Incredible show. Game show.
I actually had the opportunity. I shouldn't say opportunity. I went to Jerry Springer one time in college. The episode, if you guys want to watch it, it's called Lesbians on Ice. We got some breaking news here. Braves land Shane Greene, relief pitcher.
It's a big one here.
This is a big move.
He was one of the top, if not the top reliever on the market out of the Detroit Tigers. We'll get those full details as they come in.
Nasty stuff.
But Shane Greene, I'm going to pull up his numbers here. 1.18 ERA, so he's
I think that's the lowest ERA right now in baseball.
Kirby Yates is at 1.02, I believe. Those are the top two.
He's got to be top two.
Top two guys. He's got 22 saves for the Tigers. They've won 30 games this year, so 31. So he's got 22 of their 31 wins. He has secured WHIP at below 0.81, or below 0.9, I should say. He's having a very good season for the Tigers. And look, if you're Detroit, you trade every asset you have. Like, you got to get future young, controllable talent. You see the numbers on screen. A good strikeout to walk ratio. So this is a good get for the Braves. I will say this. The Dodgers are the clear front runner in the National League. I think the Atlanta Braves are the team behind them. You get Keuchel in the middle of the season, which I think was a good deal for them. You add a good bullpen piece now in Shane Greene. Maybe now they add a middle-tier type of bat. It probably wouldn't be Hunter Pence because he's more of a DH at this point, but you got to feel good if you're the Braves about where you're at because this is the year to make a move in the National League. Like, you're going to have to get through the Dodgers, but somebody's got to be in that NLCS next to them. Maybe the Braves are emerging as that team. And Mitch is still choking up over here. Can't get over that Stroman trade. But Shane Greene, breaking news to the Atlanta Braves. I think this is the biggest domino to fall here on deadline day.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with you whatsoever on that. But, so Shane Greene, you're a team that's looking to add to that bullpen. Now the Braves have him, okay? So right now the Braves are the top team in the NL East. But I don't really know how many other teams that they're competing with. Sure, the Nationals are hot on their heels. Then you also have the Phillies, but I'm not really necessarily worried about the Phillies as much. If you're the Atlanta Braves, okay, you're 63, you're 45.
Yep.
I think they have, the fourth best odds to win the World Series. What do you think are the actual chances? Do you think the Braves are a legitimate contender to win the World Series? Because, for me, they're a good team. They have 63 wins. I get it. But I don't really consider them a legitimate threat to win the title. I don't think
it's a very top-heavy year in Major League Baseball.
I agree. I don't think they're good enough to beat the Dodgers. I don't think that they're good enough to beat the Yankees, to beat the Stros, to beat the Twins.
But if you're the Braves, your focus is the National League.
Sure.
Stros, Astros, if you get to the World Series, your focus, if you're the Braves, is Dodgers. How do we beat the Dodgers? How do we beat them in a 7-game series? Adding a guy like Shane Greene helps. It's certainly going to be a tough task, but anything can happen in a 7-game series. I do think the Braves have emerged as the biggest threat to the Dodgers in the National League. I would put them as that 4th or 5th team as a World Series contender. They might be the top team of the second-tier teams. For a World Series contender. They're not better than the Yankees, Astros, or Dodgers, but they might be that 4th team. The Red Sox haven't done it this year. The Twins are starting to fade, and they're kind of like the Braves. They don't have a lot of proven October success, so
that's my thing.
Maybe the Braves, and they have to prove it in October. They're going to have to beat somebody in the first round in the divisional series. Whoever wins the Central will be their opponent there, but we will see certainly what happens. They're a second-tier threat. I can't go full yes there, but I think they're more capable than some of the other teams in the mix. I would have them as my 4th team to win the World Series behind the big 3 of the Dodgers, Yankees, and Astros.
I would type my N for no. I don't think that the Braves are an actual threat to win the World Series. So what do you guys think? Comment below. We see Donnie. He says no. Derek says yes. Donnie is throwing a lot of no's in there. Baseball Dodger says no. A lot of no's. So we're seeing a lot of no's. I think an M for maybe.
So you think it's truly just those 3 teams? Who would be your 4th team then? Who are some of the teams outside of the Yankees, Astros,
I
and
would
Dodgers.
have said the Indians. I would have said the Indians
Before Bauer.
before the Bauer trade. But now, if I have to honestly look through some of these other teams, like I don't trust the Twins. If the Red Sox get hot, if the Red Sox were to get hot, I'd be like, that's a team that I do not want to play right now.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. They'd be right there in the mix as well. So type Y for yes, type N for no. Minute type of trade here. Rocky Gale heading to the Tampa Bay Rays. By the way, Tom's theory of cool names turning into big-time pros, not the case with Rocky Gale. But he's gotten to the big, so I will give him credit there. Cash considerations going to the Dodgers. More of a AAA type of catcher here, but he's, 31 years old. He's a number 2 type of catcher. Nothing too much to see here, Mitch.
Yeah, nothing too much to see here. The Dodgers, though, they're getting more cash. The Rays, they receive Rocky Gale. He's the catcher. Make sure you guys subscribe. Get us to 150K subscribers. We're definitely trying to do that. We're trying to get to 150K. I'd like to get to 150K by October. I'd like to continue to do more baseball videos. So if you guys are a first-time watcher, you're like, wow, Chat Sports is doing baseball stuff. Hey, let's try to get to 150K subscribers. So make sure you guys subscribe, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Make sure you guys, if you're watching already on YouTube, click that big subscribe button. So that'd be great. Get us there to we're at 130, 250.
By the way, I'm super disappointed that we didn't get to see the awkward high five between Jimmy and Tom, because we were actually out of the office when we got to 130K. So should we do it ourselves since they didn't get to do it? You go the fist bump, I go the high five. We got to that 130K there. So trying to get to 150K.
I think we should do a chest bump.
Do you want to end up on the wall over there? Because that's probably what's going to happen if you and I chest bump here on screen. Equipment would be flying everywhere. Cameras would be falling over. We'd just have to shut this thing down, man. It would not go over well. But subscribe, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Got lots of NFL stuff around the corner, as well as training camp is ramping up.
I'm excited that we're able to continue to do more things here on Chat Sports, like do MLB, do NFL, do NBA. Like, we're killing it here. So make sure you guys subscribe. Again, get us to 150K.
Yeah, less than 30 minutes to that trade deadline, 28.5 minutes and counting. Will Madison Bumgarner get dealt? I think he's kind of the biggest name out there at this point. Noah Syndergaard, I don't think he's going anywhere. Does Hunter Pence get moved from the Rangers, a solid bat who's on the market? So lots of names still floating around as we're less than 30 minutes away.
Less than 30 minutes away here. Make sure you guys are staying packed here. And if I sound terrible, I'm sorry. I'm coming down off a cold. It's all good. I'm going to try to work through this. So make sure you guys continue to subscribe. Make sure you guys comment below. Talk about the trade deadline here.
Yeah, here's some stuff going on. John Ryan Murphy, the catcher, going to the Braves. That classic cash considerations going to the Diamondbacks. Kind of like the Rocky Gale trade. Not a huge thing to see here. So the backup type of catcher and Murphy moving to Atlanta there. We've got Zach Gallen heading to the Diamondbacks. Talked about this trade a little bit earlier. Marlins get the D-backs #1 prospect. Gallen, the young, controllable starting pitcher from Miami, heads over to the Diamondbacks. So kind of a swap there, pitcher for infielder, both higher-end prospects there in that deal. Hunter Strickland heading to the Nationals in hopes to help bolster their bullpen. Aaron Fletcher heading to the Seattle Mariners. Mariners are in a bad way right now. They're not quite the Detroit Tigers or Baltimore Orioles, but they are in a full rebuild up there in Seattle. Of course, Corey Dickerson got moved to the Phillies. International pool slot money for the Pittsburgh Pirates there. So not too big of a deal there. Dickerson giving the Phillies a much-needed bat. They could use a little bit more pop in that lineup. You got Jamison Hanna heading to the Cincinnati Reds. Tanner Roark going to the A's there. Like this move for Oakland. They need middle of the rotation type of arms. That's what Roark can give you. His ERA a little bit higher than 4. I think he can be a #3 type of starter in the postseason if they were to get there. Brewers and Giants made a deal. Drew Pomerantz has not had a good couple of seasons, but the Brewers are going to take a chance on him. Mauricio Dubon going back to the Giants there. Brewers also get Ray Black in that deal as well. Pomerantz, again, all-star back in 2016, but his career has not gone the way he wanted it to the past couple of years. Hopefully Milwaukee can get him back on track. Nationals and Mariners made a deal as well. Rones Elias going to the Nats. Alvarado and Gilbeo going to the Mariners. Just minor leaguers involved in this deal. So again, not a ton of frontline action happening so far. We mentioned the Shane Greene trade that happened just a few minutes ago as he is on the move from Detroit to Atlanta. I think that makes the Braves the second contender in the National League. We'll see what those details end up being. I assume that the Detroit Tigers are going to get a lot in return for Shane Greene, one of the best relief pitchers left on the market. So that's where we're sitting right now, 25 and a half minutes and counting as we approach the trade deadline. Shane Greene, the biggest name to move today. Of course, Marcus Stroman moved to the Mets a couple of days ago. Trevor Bauer was on the move last night. But Shane Greene, this is what he's going to bring to the Braves. 22 saves, ERA just over 1. He's got a good whip. Strikeouts to walk ratio is there. He's got good stuff. And the Braves needed to get a bullpen type of piece. I still think they could use a bat in that lineup as well, but I like what the Atlanta Braves are doing. The NL East is on lock. It's just going to be a matter of if they can make a move into October. So shout out your favorite team. I want to mention that because, again, this is trade deadline show here, 25 minutes and counting until we hit that 3 o'clock Central Time. But I want to hear you guys' favorite team in the chat. We've got Detroit Tigers. I'll give you guys some shout-outs here. Yankees, Tigers flying in. You got Stanton, Judge, Hicks, and Gardner. Don't need Frazier. I agree. I think the Yankees do not need Frazier. So if they get good return for him, I think that makes some sense there. We've got Red Sox, Dodgers, Orioles, Giants, Orioles.
Who thinks the top team there in the comments section?
Got a lot of Dodgers in there. There's some Angels flying in. Kind of an even split there. Some Giants fans coming in there. The Giants are the one team, to me, Mitch, that it'll be interesting to see what they do at the deadline because do you buy, do you sell? And again, this is the report coming out late last night, early this morning. They're pondering selling right now with Madison Bumgarner, Will Smith, and some of those other arms that they have there, but they've won 20 of 26 to get above 500. They're only 2.5 games back of that second National League wildcard spot. I will be very curious to see if they pull the trigger on a Madison Bumgarner trade. Again, 24 minutes now. Like, these deals have to get done within the next half hour or so. And the Giants, when it's all said and done, maybe they just stand pat. But right now, they're holding on to Madison Bumgarner, and we know what type of pitcher he can be. This year, 6-7, 3.75 ERA there, 140 strikeouts. You ignore the regular season stats with this guy because this guy ramps it up in October. His postseason stats, he's one of the best postseason pitchers in Major League history. He's been a part of 3 World Series for the Giants. So the Giants are not just going to give him up for nothing. I think the Yankees would make some sense here to get Madison Bumgarner. I think the Astros would be interested, but again, they don't want to give up Kyle Tucker. I think the Braves would make a ton of sense, but now that they've added Shane Greene, they probably do not have the assets to go get a Madison Bumgarner as well. So as we're 23 minutes and counting, I think the most likely scenario is that Madison Bumgarner stays put and the Giants try to make a push this season. Again, 2.5 games back of that second NL wildcard slot. So keep those shout-outs coming. Favorite team, should the Giants trade Madison Bumgarner? I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Wheeler to the Rays or Astros? I think the Astros make some sense there. You get a number 4 starter in Zack Wheeler behind Verlander, Cole, and Wade Miley. I think that would make some sense there as well. Yankees did nothing. Yeah, as of now, Michael, they have not done much of anything. Again, to me, they need a starting pitcher if they're going to make a World Series run. We got a Cleveland Indians fan in the chat. Keep those flying in there as well. What about the Rangers trading Hunter Pence? I think the Rangers, I just don't know if they're going to get that much in return for Pence. I think that's the concern there from the Rangers side of things. So at this point, I would lean no, but maybe they will pull the plug on a trade there. No, they should not trade Bumgarner. If you get enough for him, I would pull the plug. But again, I would not just trade just to trade. Like, I'm with you. I would keep Bumgarner if you are not convinced that you're getting a lot of high-value prospects in return. Braves need Pence. I would like to see it. The problem is he's better suited as a DH, and with the Braves being in the National League, That doesn't make a ton of sense there. Braves acquire Ryan Murphy from the Diamondbacks, so we'll get some of those details coming your way in a minute. Michael, we need a starter. You got to tell me your team first. I don't know who you're talking about there. Trade alert, Ryan Murphy heading to the Braves. Again, we got that one a little bit earlier, catcher. Heading to the Braves there. But yeah, again, the biggest trade that's happened so far, Shane Greene heading to the Braves from the Tigers. Still waiting on those details on Detroit's end to see what they get in return. We're just 20 minutes away from that trade deadline as we are counting down to 4 o'clock Eastern Time, 3 o'clock Central Time. And let's welcome in the man himself. It's Tom Downey making his appearance, having a pinch hit here for Mitchell Renz. I don't know what happened, Tom. He did not could not get his throat working there, so he's back.
Hi, everybody. Second of all, Harrison, you're fired. I told you how to introduce this. I said, Harrison, you intro this as we've made a call to the pen, or you're fired.
In my defense, I said we've got you pinch hitting for Mitchell Renz here.
Still wrong.
Is that not close enough? Like, pinch hitters come in late in the game. We're approaching the deadline, less than 20 minutes away. Now, Tom,
call me Mariano in the comments
Initial
section.
Thoughts on what's happened so far. Obviously, Shane Greene, the biggest name to move as of now.
Current suspicion is that we're going to have some chaos here at the end.
The last 10 minutes
in
or
that
so.
last 10 minutes, even after the deadline ends, because we know it doesn't really end because there's always trades coming in there.
Yeah.
I am very confused. It's been a weird deadline anyway. You have the Mets and Reds who are sellers buying. It doesn't make any sense to me.
And it's also worth pointing out that there's no waiver deadline anymore.
Yes, so you're getting weird trades.
If you're going to make a move, the time is now. Like, you can't on August 10th wake up, we can just do the waiver. No, there's no waiver deadline. So if you want to acquire talent, you got to do it right now. Keep those favorite teams flying in there, Tom.
And that's what that Ryan Murphy trade is, too. Like, that is a little mini trade that's normally happens in August that happens today because, you can't do it anytime after this.
Yeah, so let's circle back to some of the rumors that are still floating out there, Tom. Noah Syndergaard, it appears the Mets are going to keep him at this point. That's the report coming out last night after he had 7 scoreless innings. And, again, you look at those last 4 starts, good reason, and it makes sense for the Mets to keep him.
Mets GM is convinced that they can win right now. And when you think about it from that bubble, I think it actually does make more sense.
Yeah.
You keep Syndergaard. You may or may not trade Zack Wheeler. We'll see about that one. And then beyond that, you trade for Marcus Stroman. It's all been very, very strange so far.
Yeah, you don't trade for Stroman and then flip Syndergaard. That doesn't really make sense from an organizational standpoint.
Reds just traded for not Corey Kluber, the other pitcher, and then flipped away Tanner Rourke.
Yeah, it's just
weird.
Yeah, it does not make any sense there. So the Mets appear
they're not contenders, though. Let's be clear on that.
No, they're certainly not contenders in the East. And 6 games back, I think, and then a wild card. Sure, conceivably that's doable, but they're thinking 2020.
Yes, I agree.
I think that is where this direction is going for the Mets. You trade for Stroman, who's got a year of arbitration. Syndergaard's got a couple of years of arbitration left. He's only 26, so they're thinking future up in New York. And hey, there's worse things to do than to try and to get back to contending in the future, and that's certainly what they're doing here up in New York.
Note here, by the way, on the NL East side of things, this time the NL East, the Atlanta Braves, they are nearing a trade to acquire from the Giants, Mark Melancon here. What do you make of this, assuming this does end up going down, Harrison?
Yeah, let me get his numbers up in front of me here.
I feel like he's often mentioned at the trade deadline, like almost every single year.
Yeah, done deal is that one's coming in. 4-2, 3.5 ERA. Good bullpen arm. He's one of those classic, you can throw him into any situation out of the bullpen guy. He can throw multiple innings at times. Not going to be a closer for you. Doesn't have electric stuff like that. But, hey, runners on the corners, 2 outs in the 6th. Here comes Mark Melancon. That's the type of guy you're getting here.
Braves are clearly the best team in the NL East. I think one of their teams in the NL. I am surprised they haven't been more focused on adding starting pitching help.
Yes.
I feel like they've been far more quieter than they've been.
I think teams are asking super high on starters.
Yeah,
I think that's what the trend seems to be here because Syndergaard's not going anywhere. It seems like Bumgarner at this. I think if anyone gets moved, it's Bumgarner at the last second. That's the feeling I'm getting.
Yeah, I don't know if the Giants can do that, though. If they do that, their entire organization in terms of players gets big mad.
And it's also Bruce Bochy's last year.
Oh,
He's retiring
exactly.
after
That's
this
why.
season. So
you can't pull the plug on him.
Yeah. So again, you got Melancon heading to the Braves, Giants. TBD. We'll get those details as they come in. 16 minutes and counting from that 3 o'clock Central deadline as we approach. And again, remember, a couple years ago when the Rangers moved Yu Darvish, that didn't come in, through Twitter and all that till 10 minutes after.
So we'll be here afterwards.
Yeah, we're not just going to shut things down at 3 o'clock. We will be with you guys well through the deadline,
I feel like there's
you caught up
almost
with all the
always one trade that happens after the deadline.
Well, my favorite is, the fax machine froze up, so we couldn't tweet it out yet.
It's 2019 and we're using fax machines because that makes sense.
Classic scenario. It's like the people who won't use Venmo. You need to graduate to 2019. Speaking of the Giants, they're going to sell?
They just sold Melancon.
Yeah, they sold Melancon. They moved Pomerantz earlier today.
Yeah.
But, he's not one of their front-end guys.
They're like hybrid selling.
They're saying they're like selling to the point of we can still contend this year maybe, but we want to get something in return. And again, they've won 20 of 26. 3 weeks ago, they weren't in the conversation to buy.
No, not at all.
But now they're 2.5 games back of that wild card spot, and they've got multiple arms that they can move in Bumgarner, Will Smith, and a couple of other guys.
You mentioned Will Smith. So what's your favorite Will Smith movie? Let us know in the comment section.
That's a tough one. What's yours?
Would you say that, Producer Brett? Independence Day is a great movie.
What's the one where it's just him and his dog and it's an apocalypse?
Oh, I Am Legend, which is actually just what Jimmy just said.
I love I Am Legend.
I, Robot is one of my favorite ones.
I, Robot's a good one.
First off, because that's going to happen. That's going to happen. You have to be prepared and don't want
robots
the robots
are going to be
over.
hosting this show before you know it. Tom,
how do you know I'm not a robot?
We're going to be on the trade block before you guys know it. So keep those favorite movies flying in. We got Men in Black, of course. That's a good one. Wild West.
I did not see the most recent Men in Black because I heard terrible reviews about
it. Well, it's been a while since Will Smith's been in a good movie. It's kind of sad. His career's kind of faded a little bit down the stretch here. Bad Boys.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air does not count, but that is the best
awesome
Will Smith
show.
vehicle. Yeah.
By the way, guys, make sure you are subscribed. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV. We crossed that 130,000 subscriber mark, trying to get to 150K. If we don't get there sooner rather than later, they're going to pull the plug on this thing, Tom.
Also, I had floated the idea of saying if we didn't get to 140, you were fired because you talked a lot of trash about Jimmy getting to 130. But I decided to be nice.
Well, someone's got to talk the trash when Jimmy's not up here on set.
It's
so
true.
I am filling in for hater Jimmy today. Type H in the chat if you hate Jimmy, if he's a hater.
Wow,
keep those
that's not what you meant.
Either way, if you hate him or if you think he's a hater, type H in the chat. We'll keep this thing.
Speaking of H's, let's go to Houston. Meanwhile, Harrison, also an H. God, look at me go.
Big alliteration, man. Tom Downey.
Are they looking to bolster the rotation?
Certainly, and I mentioned earlier that the Astros are always very calculated when they make moves. Like a couple years ago, they make the waiver deadline trade for Verlander. They didn't want to pull the plug at the regular trade deadline, so they wait and they get Verlander. Obviously, that's not a thing anymore, the waiver deadline, so you got to make a move now. They're looking to add a starter. They've looked at Robbie Ray. Zack Wheeler seems more realistic. They like the price range they can get him at more. And again, Jeff Luhnow, the Astros general manager, does not he does not like overspending on trades. Like he wants to be like Kyle Tucker, their top prospect. I'd be stunned if they moved him.
There's no way.
They're not going to move him. And you look, and for good reason. They're set as their top three starters. You've got Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole. I'll put that 1-2 punch against any contender in Major League Baseball. Wade Miley's had a nice year. His ERA is floating around 3. Good lefty arm for them. So Brad Peacock's been in and out of the rotation. He's been hurt. They would like for him to take that long man role in postseason. Charlie Morton did that for them a couple of years ago. You slide him to the bullpen and bring in a number 4 type of starter like a Zack Wheeler, like a Robbie Ray. That is what the Houston Astros would like to do. And you look at their numbers, Tom. Ray's going to cost more, but which guy here do you think makes more sense for Houston?
Well, I think in the end it actually ends up being Zack Wheeler, and not because of like the indication of, he's better than Robbie Ray, but because the Diamondbacks have been asking for a ridiculous price for Robbie Ray.
Yeah, that price they asked from the Yankees, Frazier plus 3 prospects.
One of those was Clark Schmidt.
Yeah, no.
So Diamondbacks like, okay, guys.
Who do you think Robbie Ray is? This is not Garrett Cole, who's hitting 100 and his ERA sub-3 and he's still young. Like, he's a 4 ERA guy. Like, yeah, sure, he's a nice starter, but you're not getting multiple elite prospects plus a current outfielder in Clint Frazier. Like, that be reasonable.
That's an unrealistic expectation there. Speaking of Zack Wheeler, meanwhile, I will make note the Yankees, many of you have been asking about New York in the comments section, well, they're apparently out on the Zack Wheeler trade talks.
Interesting.
Yankees being real conservative.
They got to add a starter, man. I don't like what the Yankees are doing here. And look, Zack Wheeler's not going to be anybody's savior, but they need somebody. Like, it's, he hadn't had a great season, but I do think the Mets would like to move him because we mentioned earlier, you got Stroman, you're keeping Syndergaard, but you would like to get some minor league talent in there as well. So if you move a Wheeler, maybe you can get some of that back and help rebolster that farm system.
Yeah, so I think in terms of Zack Wheeler here, Yankees see him out. I've seen the Astros link. I think the Braves had been linked. A couple other teams were in the mix there. I am curious to see if he gets dealt. My suspicion here is the Mets are just going to stand pat. I don't think that they want to trade away stuff at the moment. I think they want to build not just for this year, but more importantly for 2020, much like how the Reds have operated this deadline period.
Just about 10 minutes away from the trade deadline approaching. Not a ton of movement so far, Tom.
It's been a quiet one.
Shane Greene, biggest name on the move today. Of course, Stroman moved a couple of days ago. You had the 3-team trade involving Trevor Bauer and Yasiel Puig last night. But the Mets, certainly a team that can either buy or sell at this point, Tom. It seems like they've been willing to do both. So that's where we are right now with the New York Mets.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see what New York does. It does sound, though, as you mentioned earlier, Harrison, Noah Syndergaard is not going to be on his way out here.
Yeah, no, I think at this point you keep Syndergaard and you build around him and Stroman as your 1-2 punch in the rotation moving forward.
And so, folks, just under 10 minutes to go here. Someone who also might not be dealt, Whit Merrifield. What's going on here, Harrison?
Yeah, I mean, the Cubs are certainly interested in him, but the Royals have a very high price on him, and for good reason. Best outfielder on the market. That's their leverage there. And older player, 31 years old, so it's not like you're getting a guy that you can have build for the next 4, 5, 6 seasons. This is a guy you're wanting to have for this year, maybe next year as well. But look, good hitter, plays good outfield, and can play multiple outfield positions. So, this would make some sense for the Cubs, but as me and Mitch talked about earlier, the Cubs, just for whatever reason, cannot get any momentum going. They win that World Series a couple of years ago, and they've got virtually the same team, if not even more pieces with Yu Darvish and Cole Hamels, and they just can't get on track for whatever reason.
He strikes me as a very Cubs-type player.
He reminds me of, who's the role player they had back in 2016? I think they got him from Kansas City as well.
Ben Zobrist.
Yes.
Because that's who I was thinking.
He is the Ben Zobrist of this trade deadline. That is Whit Merrifield. He's going to hit. He's going to play good defense. He's a good clubhouse guy. Like, he brings all the right things to the table. Got a good OPS there. And he's the best outfielder on the market. So I don't blame the Royals at all for holding firm and asking for a lot for him in return.
Now, here are the NL Central standings. The Cubs 57-49, or the Cardinals have the record, excuse me. Cubs are 1 game back. Brewers 2 game back. The Reds, who bought and then sold Tanner Roark, they're 7.5 games back. That's my Cincinnati Reds, by the way.
Of course.
I am a fan. I don't go to games anymore because I'm here in Dallas. And then the Pirates at 10.5 games back. Also, can I just make note how bonkers the Reds-Pirates game was last night? Just that entire situation.
What was that pitcher's name? I mean, he took on the whole...
Amir Garrett, a former basketball player.
I love how in baseball everybody's like, "Oh, did you see that brawl between the Yankees and the Red Sox?" And it's like, "Oh, 2 guys touched each other." That was a brawl last night. Garrett literally throws his glove down and takes on the entire Pirates bench on and starts throwing haymakers over there.
It was also glorious to me because the Pirates and Reds, those 2 teams absolutely hate each other.
Yeah.
Like, those teams have not gotten along all year long. The Reds manager, David Bell, has asked the MLB several times to please stop the Pirates from throwing at our players.
Yeah.
And the Pirates have not really stopped doing it. And they also hate Derek Dietrich. It's glorious. I think it's fantastic there. I love it so much with the Reds Pirates. 2 bottom teams in the NL Central, but who really cares there?
Yeah, I mean, the Reds Pirates, certainly not a factor there. This is the most middling division in baseball. This is like what the AFC South was for years in the NFL, where all 4 teams were decent, but none of them were good. That is the National League Central. Have you ever gotten in a fist fight?
I don't know if it was a fist fight. It was more like a tackling, hold them down
Tom's
fight.
Definitely a bear hug fight type of guy.
I fight dirty.
He's not,
I bite.
You bring knives to your fight. You bite. Zombie Tom. You bite.
Have you got in a fist fight?
No.
Coward. You'd win. Why haven't you got in a fight?
But that's why I haven't gotten in a fight, because people know. Like, they're like, I'm not getting in a fight with this guy.
Good point. You don't need to get in a fight. That's fair.
Yeah, so I'm good to go there. Plus, I like to view myself as a cordial guy. Like, I'm not causing problems.
Okay. All right, note, by the way, you see it on the bottom of your screen. David Robertson of the Phillies, his season is over. He needs elbow surgery. There's the flexor tendon that needs repaired, and he also might need Tommy John, too.
That means he will be out all of next year as well. If Tommy
not
John
great
is
for
gone.
Philadelphia.
He was a key piece of that Yankees bullpen the last couple of years. Of course, the Phillies brought him in on board this year. So Phillies may need to, the last minute here, try and get involved for one of those relief pitchers. They traded for one earlier, but
also,
not a high level one.
Shout out Lucid Tug, who said he got in a fight with his sister's boyfriend. Probably not great. Not great.
Yeah, let's keep it out of the family. If you're gonna fight, not within the family. We don't support that here at Chat Sports. Notable relievers that could be traded. Some other guys still out there, Tom. You got Kirby Yates of the Padres.
Yeah.
Shane Greene has already been moved. Will Smith of the Giants. Ken Giles. Sean Kelly of the Rangers. They moved Chris Martin last night. So there's still a lot of relievers there.
I think definitely would have been dealt.
Before the elbow issue?
The elbow issue, I think, has really nerfed his trade value. Because no one wants to, we're going to give up prospects for a player that we don't know what he's going to end up doing.
Yeah, 2 weeks later, we got to shut him down for the season. Like, that is not what you're looking to do. And you see these four guys up on screen there for you guys. Kirby Yates, clearly ERA-wise, the top guy left on the market. Will Smith of the Giants, we've talked about them a lot today. Of course, Giles and Sean Kelly there as well. So lots of guys could be on the move as we approach just 5 minutes away of the trade deadline.
I am curious to see what else happens and what else happens in that after that 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. Eastern time frame. There's always something that goes down. I don't know if it's going to be
Is it Bumgarner? Is he the guy that
I feel like we're not going to get an explosive climax to this year's trade deadline. I feel like we're just going to kind of peter out.
Did Mitchell Renz make his way back up here, because he is the only
Look, someone's got to make the dirty jokes
Sports.
if Mitch isn't here, okay? I got you guys covered.
Kirby Yates, you look at his player profile there, has really had a breakout season for the Padres. Padres are in a mode right now because they're not winning this year, but they want to win in the future. You don't give a guy $300 million in Manny Machado. You got Fernando Tatis, who's maybe going to win National League Rookie of the Year probably. So they're certainly not going to move Yates for nothing, but if they get overwhelmed with an offer, he would certainly be a guy that could be on the move.
I would venture to say he's not dealt.
Yeah, I think
the Padres still want to win next year.
I keep him if I'm the Padres. Like, you can't keep acquiring these minor league prospects and never try to win. So if I'm the Padres, I keep Yates. I think Will Smith is much more likely to be moved because, not the ceiling that Yates has, ERA 2.72, has a good strikeout walk ratio and whip, but doesn't have the electric type of stuff that Yates has. I think this is a more likely guy that could be moved in the next few minutes.
I am very curious to see what happens there. Giles, you mentioned him earlier. Had he not been hurt, I think he's already gone to a team. Maybe the Phillies have interest, though, if they want to bring him back, come full circle with David Robertson now hurt.
Yeah, that could be an interesting one there. And while teams could be scared, could they also buy him lower?
Exactly.
So that could be an opportunity there. I will say, man, and I know, he's had a great year this year. He was brutal for the Astros.
That's true.
In the 17 postseason. And again, it's a new year. I get all that. But it was to the point where they couldn't keep putting him out there. He was so bad that they had to not use him. You got Sean Kelly in the mix as well. Kind of you could buy lower on this, 35 years old. He's a rental for this year.
And the Rangers, I have been surprised by how quiet they've been at this trade deadline,
I agree.
by the way.
Mike Minor, no chatter.
Kelly, Pence. Why aren't you just dealing with that?
Lance Lynn, even a guy that could be dealt. I don't know. I think John Daniels kind of like Jeff Luhnow, is pretty calculated when he makes trades. He doesn't like just giving up guys for nothing. But if you're the Rangers, you've overachieved this year, but you got to be realistic. Like, your farm system is not great. I think they're 25th out of 30th by Baseball America. Like, you need young talent, especially young, controllable starting pitching. So I do not understand why they have not been willing to pull the trigger on some more trades.
Well, trade details here have come in for the Braves and the Giants as part of the Mark Melancon deal. The Giants are getting pitcher Tristan Beck and also pitcher Daniel Winker Beck, I will make note, is the number 17 prospect in the Braves organization, a 2018 fourth-round pick.
Yeah, and that lower third note for you guys, Joe Biaggiani to the Astros. Some notes on him: 3-1 record out of the pen this year, 3.86 ERA. There was a note I read earlier: Ryan Presley, one of their top relievers, heading to the injured list, so they were looking to add a bullpen type of piece as well. So they do that in Biaggiani, and just another Blue Jays player that is on the move here.
All right, so who won this trade, folks? Type B for the Braves and G for the Giants. I think there's going to be some balancing in terms of the money that the Giants end up paying as well, but ignoring that part for now, who won this trade?
Hey, you got to go the Braves. I mean, they're trying to win, and this is the year to do it in the National League. Look, beating the Dodgers is going to be a tall task, but it only takes one really good series to do it. I don't see another team in the National League challenging the Braves or the Dodgers. So you get to that NLCS and you give yourself the best chance to take them down. I go with the Braves here. They help bolster that bullpen.
I think that's fair. I'm a little bit disappointed overall by the Braves and their moves because I think they need more pitching help.
Yeah.
But I think this was a good move for them. I mean, maybe Tristan Beck can become maybe he's more of a bottom of the rotation guy, a bullpen guy for them long term. He is a little bit older. He's already 23 years old because he was a college pitcher, but that's at least a decent enough pick, I think.
Yeah, absolutely there. And you got to remember with the Braves, they added Dallas Keuchel midseason. He's been pretty good for them. I'm with you though. One more, they're kind of a starter away. Like they had one more starter, you'd be like, man, they really.
Stroman would have been perfect for them.
Stroman going to the Mets, I think, really threw a lot of teams off because
that was weird.
The Yankees were expecting to be in on him. And, just so you guys know, deadline has passed. A couple of deals we expect to come in, in the next 10 minutes or so. Remember, Darvish, a couple of years ago, that wasn't, officially official until, I think, 3:09 Central Time. And so we're at 3 o'clock right now, waiting to see if any more deals come through. But overall, fairly quiet.
Yeah, you see bottom of your screen there as well. Speaking of the Astros, the Angels and Astros were working towards a deal involving Max Stassi. Remember, the Astros just got Martin Maldonado,
who they had last year. They experienced there, so that makes some sense.
So there's your extra catcher can then go to the Los Angeles Lakers there.
Yep.
So again, we don't know what the assets are coming back in this Houston trade. I would venture to say it's probably on the lesser side.
Yeah, again, Luno. I think Luno and the Astros they decided they were going to buy low. They weren't going to go get Bumgarner. Once Stroman passed, they weren't going to go. They would have loved Syndergaard, but again, they really think highly of Kyle Tucker. So they get a decent bullpen arm. I thought maybe Zack Wheeler could happen, and maybe it does in the next couple of minutes as these deals become official. But Astros buying low at the deadline.
On Zack Wheeler, note is that there is no trade.
Okay.
There is no trade involving Zack Wheeler and the Mets here. That's a notable update for you. Also, it appears Felipe Vasquez is also not being dealt.
Yeah, that's interesting because, let's be honest, this is a quiet deadline.
It is a boring deadline. It's been a failure.
And it's surprising because there's no waiver deadline. So, it's not like you can wake up in 2 weeks and try to make a big-time move. This is it now, and, we'll see if a couple slip through the cracks at the last second. But Wheeler didn't get moved. It doesn't appear Robbie Ray is getting moved. Giants stood pat. Mostly they trade a couple of, their lesser pitchers, but it seems like they're going to maybe try and make a late push this season.
Someone called it the worst dedeadline ever in the comment section.
It's hard to argue.
I have a tough time thinking of worse. Even at least last year we had the Bryce Harper, is he not going to be traded type deal?
Yeah, I mean, even this year the biggest rumors Mike Minor, Syndergaard, but even today the Syndergaard thing fell apart. No chatter on Mike Minor. And circling back to the Rangers, like you mentioned earlier, to not move anybody.
That's weird.
Chris Martin's the only guy you moved last night. I know you've had an above average season, but a lot of these guys you have that could be traded are not parts of your future. Hunter Pence, 36 years old. Sean Kelly, 35 years old. Move those guys for even decent prospects. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
All right, so the updated here, Shane Greene, I almost said grade there because we're going to grade it in a little bit, but the Shane Greene trade, Joey Wentz and Travis, I hope I pronounced this right, Dimitri, that's how I'm going to go with it, it's probably wrong, a second baseman going to the Tigers. Joey Wentz, though, is definitely the prize of this deal for the Detroit Tigers. He was the Braves' number 7 prospect.
Yeah, and if you're Detroit, you just got to get as much young talent as you can. Shane Greene, that's a big piece to let go of. But you got the worst record in baseball. You sell at that point, and that is what they've done here with Shane Greene. So who won the trade? Braves. I mean, more often than not, the proven player, that team wins the trade. Certainly, it does go the other way at times, but certainly the Braves, I think, won this trade. They get an elite bullpen arm.
I think that was definitely the correct move for the Braves. I would have preferred a pitcher. It looks like they're not going to get one, but they did get bullpen arms. That does make life easier on your starting pitchers if they can get you to that point.
And you've seen in recent years, like the Yankees a couple years ago, they told their starters basically, get us 4 innings. Like, well, Robertson, Chapman, they had like 5-6 relievers that they could count on.
Yeah.
So you're seeing teams do that more where they bolster up their bullpens and they're just trying to get 5 innings out of their starters. So maybe that is the direction that the Braves are trying to go in here, especially with the starting pitcher market seemingly being too rich.
It appears that there has been no trade for Zack Wheeler, there has been no trade for Vasquez, and there's been no trade for Bumgarner either. Is that a massive surprise to you?
Man, I thought at least Wheeler would get traded. Like, it didn't surprise me that Bumgarner's not getting dealt, but for no notable starting pitcher to get moved on deadline day. I mean, obviously Stroman and Bauer were moved prior to today, but
to non-contenders.
Yeah. For especially for the Yankees. For the Yankees to not add a starting pitcher, that's a failure. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't think they've got the horses to win in October with that rotation. Tanaka hasn't had a good year. Severino's probably not going to pitch this year.
Yankees did diddly.
They did nothing, so that is a big surprise to me. It's been very quiet.
Yeah, all right, guys. Make sure you are subscribed if you like the MLB. Get us to 150K. We're going to skip right over 140. 150 is the big number in mind here because, we aim high.
Yeah, I mean, 140 just kind of sounds like
that's boring. No one cares about 140.
It's a boring number. Let's get to 150. We're striving high here at Chat Sports. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV. Tell a friend while you're at it. Tell them, hey, these Tom, Harrison, Mitch, when his voice works, they do cool stuff. So YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV.
I will make note. You see the bottom of your screen there. The Rays are trying to acquire Nick Anderson from the Miami Marlins. So we'll see if that actually does end up going down. Again, the deadline has passed. But we also know that, especially in MLB, more so than the NBA or NFL, there's always stuff that happens afterward.
Yeah, Nick Anderson this year, Yu Darvish, that's when you know it's been a quiet one. If that does happen,
doesn't move the needle at all.
Yeah, some of his numbers here: 2-4, 3.92 ERA out of the bullpen this year. WHIP 1.2. I mean, average bullpen arm. I mean, that's kind of what you're getting there if that ends up happening. So here's some World Series favorites for you guys. I don't see a lot of movement here. I think it'll stay because I don't think any team did anything of note for these to change.
Well, I actually lied. The Yankees have made a move. They have acquired Alfredo Garcia from Colorado in exchange for right-handed pitcher Joseph Harvey. That's a lefty from Colorado in Alfredo Garcia. And then the righty Joseph Harvey going back to the Colorado Rockies in that one. So they did make a move here, Harrison. They've made a move. This, however, does not move the needle at all.
No,
I see a lot of questions of, wait, who is Alfredo Garcia in the comments?
Yeah, he's a minor league arm. That's
all
what
right,
he is.
They did an August trade. That's what they did.
Yeah, they did an off-season trade at the buzzer.
Because I was going to say, I'm like, I haven't heard of Alfredo Garcia before.
That's nothing. Like, the Yankees, teaser alert, because that's what we do in this business. They're going to be on our losers, I believe, of the MLB trade deadline winners and losers.
Are there any winners? That's my first question.
God, like, these teams really kind of screwed us here, man. Like,
this has been a disappointment.
This has been a dud. This has been the total opposite of NBA free agency. Like, moves happening left and right. Oh, big move of this, Shane Greene. Like, I love Shane Greene, but when that's the biggest thing happening, pretty disappointing day.
Snooze fest
for Major League. And by the way, it's not great for Major League Baseball in general either.
No.
Usually you garner a lot of buzz and interest. This time of year, nothing.
Look, we're coming off the best NBA offseason ever, and MLB's like, all right, our turn. And they're
Alfredo
like, oh, wait,
Garcia.
it's over.
Yeah, here's Alfredo Garcia going to the Yankees. So here are the details.
Disappointment there.
Joseph Harvey going back to the Rockies there. Some minor leaguers swapping.
I don't think either of these guys are in the top 30. I'll double check here, but no,
that's what's so weird. These type of moves don't happen at the trade deadline.
It's because they changed it and they said, you know what? No more of the August deadline. We're now going to do only July. With the hope that it was going to make things happen, and then we got random minor league trades and Sean Greene. That's just kind of a big time. so far there. So
I'll correct your Sean Greene and go Shane Greene, but
Shane Greene. Sorry,
I mean,
I'm used to the old school.
Yeah, exactly.
I also almost typed in Sean Greene on a graphic and fixed it just before it got pushed up.
What? Q&A, would anyone have even noticed? Probably not. That's how this trade deadline has been. So very quiet trade deadline. We're 8 minutes past here, Tom. I don't think anything's slipping through the cracks at this point.
That's what you think. I'll take that bet. I'll bet you $1 there's something noteworthy that ends up happening.
You still think something happens?
Something happens. Bet.
Okay, I'll bet $1. Nothing more is going to happen. And something just happened.
Well, okay. How about $2? It's beyond Richards and Anderson to the Rays.
Okay.
Double down.
Okay, I'll double down. Big time bets here on Chat Sports. Rays get Trevor Richards and Nick Anderson, and the Marlins get Ryan Stanek.
Allow me to look up if any of these guys are in the top 30, because Harrison, I'm going to be honest with you, these guys beyond Nick Anderson.
When did this become the minor league trade deadline?
This is what we're at, apparently.
Oh my gosh,
so
this is just brutal.
I'm on the Marlins here. Let's see. They give up Trevor. He is nope, not on there either.
By the way, it looks like I'm going to owe you $2 because
let's go.
Jeff Passan reporting that Mike Leake,
we got something,
heading to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Which, why? Why are the
Diamondbacks?
Why? Again, a non-contender trades for a starting pitcher. What a great deadline.
500 team picking up Mike Leake. I don't know.
By the way, 500 team adding 500 pitcher in Mike Leake. Like, classic move for the Arizona Diamondbacks there.
We'll have to wait and see what the Diamondbacks are sending as part of this deal. But Leake going to the D-backs here. The Brewers and Rangers had him on their list. I know that.
Yeah.
And
he must have approved it because he had a no-trade clause. Well, I mean, hell, he's just trying to get out of Seattle. Get me out of here. I'll waive the no-trade clause. Send me to Arizona. It's hot, but whatever. So he
pitched at – wait, where'd he go to school?
Arizona State. There
right?
it is.
Okay, that's what I thought, yeah.
And you know what I've always liked about Leake? He's a good hitter for a pitcher. He goes back to the National League, and he will get to bat for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I guess they could make a push for the National League wild card, but I just don't really understand this move, Tom.
All right, we got multiple trades coming in, so it's $2 for each of them that happens. Man, I really should have gone higher. I'll be honest, I heard wind of the Leake trade. That's why I offered it. But we got other trades coming in, but Leake here heading to the Arizona Diamondbacks. We don't yet know what the Mariners are getting. Aaron Sanchez also here, as all the action comes in 10 minutes after the deadline ends, is heading to the Houston Astros.
Interesting move here by Luno. And I will say this, the Houston Astros in the last 3-4 years have been really good at getting the best out of pitchers. Like Wade Miley before this year
was
average starting pitcher. His ERA is 3.06 this year.
Yeah,
like even Verlander, when he was in Detroit, he was starting to fade. He comes to Houston, refines his stuff, becomes an ace again. Like Garrett Cole, coming off a not so great year with the Pirates, they trade for him. He's electric now. Like the Astros know how to get the best out of their starters. And as far as this year goes, Sanchez is not going to be a rotation piece come October, but he can eat innings down the stretch, be that number 5 type of starter, and be a long man. So I like this move for the Astros, especially moving forward. If they can revive him a little bit, 2020 and beyond, because Garrett Cole's a free agent. We'll see if they end up bringing him back. But Sanchez heading to the Astros, and they probably bought very low.
Yeah, I would figure. I mean, we've seen the massive just cliff fall off by Aaron Sanchez as of late.
It's been brutal.
Might be like your 5th guy in the regular season, then postseason. Probably does end up moving to the bullpen. Again, we do not know those details. Another trade, though. Nicholas Castellanos heading from the Tigers to the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs get in last second.
Yeah, and Castellanos, he's been slumping a little bit as of late, but had a nice year for the Tigers. I think he's hitting 275, somewhere in that range. Gives you a little bit of power, can play multiple spots in the outfield. And while the Cubs they wanted Merrifield, they probably were able to buy much lower for Castellanos. Yeah. And, overall, I think that's a good move for them. You plug him into one of your corner outfield spots.
So I am curious to see what Detroit got back in that trade from the Cubs, which, frankly, their farm system has taken a bit of a hit in recent years, which is kind of the nature of being a contending team.
Yeah, I mean, you ebb and flow. As years goes, around 2008, 7 to 10, they were one of the premier teams in baseball. You trade all those assets. Now you're trying to rebuild. That's what the Tigers are trying to do. Cubs are trying to stay in that win-now mode. So I think this trade makes sense for both sides.
Yeah, so we continue to wait and see what those details were for the Cubs trade. for the Mike Leake trade and also for the Aaron Sanchez trade. All of those came in like the past 3 minutes or so. So the old classic 10 minutes after the deadline, we get all the action.
Yeah, and we're 13 minutes past now, so should we triple down? Will another move trickle in as we approach the deadline?
So we got another big one. Houston ain't done, apparently.
Oh, boy.
Houston coming in absolutely last second here, really after the deadline ends altogether. The Houston Astros have acquired Zack Greinke.
Wow.
I like it. Okay, now we got some action, guys.
That is interesting because I am wondering if
I'm surprised, actually.
10-4, 2.87 ERA this year. He is older, 35 years old. He does have kind of that brutal contract.
Yeah.
This tells me a couple of things. One, they may not feel great about their chances of bringing Garrett Cole back in the offseason. So you get Greinke, a guy who's not quite as good, but he's certainly still a good starting pitcher. And two, you probably were able to convince the Diamondbacks to eat some of his salary, because it's not like the NBA where when you trade for a player you eat the entire, like the Diamondbacks can say we'll pay half of his remaining salary. That happens all the time in Major League Baseball. So Astros swing big. I think they just became our biggest winners because you look at their 1 through 4 rotation now in whatever order: Verlander, Cole, Greinke, Miley's your number 4 starter now.
Yeah,
that's you slide. And the goal here for Houston, you slide Peacock to that long man role in the bullpen where he is much better suited come October. You also got Sanchez who can do some of that as well. The Houston Astros have to feel very good about what they've done here at the gun here, Tom.
Another minor trade here. I'm going to botch the pronunciation, so I'm sorry, guys. But Nico Holzer, it's Holzizer. Thanks, guys. I don't know. Nico Holzizer heading to the Tampa Rays there. But focusing on the Zack Greinke here.
Yeah.
I am very curious what Houston gave up. I don't think it'd be Kyle Tucker.
The only way.
Wouldn't Arizona ask for that to start?
The only way they gave up Tucker is if the Diamondbacks are eating some of Greinke's salary.
Okay.
There's no way that they would give up Tucker, because I'm going to pull up Greinke's contract details for you, because it's not great. He's 35 years old. But Jeff Luhnow, and the reason they backed out on Bumgarner, they weren't going to give up Tucker. That is what they were hell-bent on. And you look at Greinke's deal, he's got 2 more years at $32 per year, and he's 35. So, you owe him $64 million through 2021. That is a lot of money.
Can I toss out, it's apparently 4 prospects, by the way. 4 prospects going to Arizona on this one. Don't have the exact
If it's 4,
yet.
That tells me they kept Tucker, got rid of everybody else. That's probably the route they went.
Do you think Seth Beer is involved in this? Because that's my dude, by the way.
I could see,
mostly because of his last name.
I could see Forrest Whitley. He's kind of taken a step back this year. He's not had a great year in the farm, but he's still a top 20 prospect, I believe, in Major League Baseball. I could see it being like a Whitley, a Beer. Corbin Martin's another arm that teams are high on. So maybe it's a combination of some of those guys. But if it's 4 prospects, there's no way Tucker's one of them.
That's too much there.
It would have either been Tucker and no one else, or again, 3 or 4 of their second-tier guys.
So again, we're waiting on those details for the Zack Greinke trade. Very much a surprise, coming in well after the deadline ends, so to speak, and then the Astros, again, continue to be all in on winning right now in the middle of their, frankly, I think, fairly wide open window in terms of time frame.
And I think as we put the question on screen, type Y for yes, type N for no, are the Astros the best team in Major League Baseball? I think you could argue that they were before today. I think now they firmly are, because, again, their biggest competition in the American League is the New York Yankees. And look at Game 1 starters. Verlander for the Astros, Tanaka for the Yankees. Yeah, that's advantage Houston. Game 2, Garrett Cole for the Astros. Domingo Germán, J.A. Happ for the Yankees. You go all the way down the rotation. The Yankees lineup can rake, but so can the Astros. That lineup is loaded. The Astros are firmly the best team in the American League now, in my opinion, built for October. And I think they may have surpassed the Dodgers with what they've done here at the deadline.
I think it's a Dodgers versus Astros debate there. I think it's noteworthy that the Dodgers have been, relative to what Houston did, has been far quieter.
Yes. I thought the Dodgers would add bullpen pieces, at least one.
Yeah, I'm kind of.
And they did not do that there because their rotation's pretty set. Their lineup is good. They're still probably not going to have too much trouble getting through the National League, although Atlanta's trying to make or tried to make enough moves to be a contender there. But I think as of now, 2017 World Series rematch. I think Astros-Dodgers would be the betting favorite to be in the World Series this year. I think the Astros just made themselves the best team in Major League Baseball.
All right, so let us know in the comments section why for yes and for no if the Astros are the best team right now in the MLB. Dodgers a popular rebuttal in the comment section I see right now. They also made a minor trade with the Rays. Break this one down for me, Harrison.
Yeah, the Rays getting Nico Holsizer, as you mispronounce it. They get Adam
Yeah, I botched it. That's why I avoided it this time.
Kolarek from the Tampa Bay Rays. I'll pull up his stuff here. I assume he is a reliever here. Yeah, 4-3, 3.95 ERA out of the pen. I mean, okay. I mean, that's a second tier bullpen arm. That ain't getting Zack Greinke.
No.
I'll tell you that right there.
Some other trades that have come in here after the deadline, because there are several now and they keep flowing in.
I like this one.
Sam Dyson is heading to the Twins. You like this one here?
Yeah, Sam Dyson was a really good closer for the Rangers a few years ago. Started to slip, I believe, in 2017. Did not have a good season. Has revitalized his career with the Giants. ERA under 2.5. That whip at 0.9. High strikeout guy. He hits high 90s with a sinker, 96 to 98 with that sinker. Good movement there. This is a good think setup guy here.
Okay,
like
that makes
electric
sense. Yeah.
setup guy. I don't love him.
And you need those guys in the postseason.
Yeah, I don't love him as a closer, but he's an ideal 7th, 8th inning type of guy. I think this is a good move for the Twins and a realistic type of move for them. You know, those smaller tier markets, they weren't going to go get a Bumgarner, but you get Sam Dyson and you plug him into the back of that bullpen. That makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah, so again, the Twins getting Sam Dyson. As of this point, we do not yet know what the Giants are getting back. Once we find out, we'll update you guys.
Probably not too much. He's 31. Relievers, they either get a lot in return, like the Kimbrels of the world. You're going to get a lot in return. Sam Dyson, you're not going to give up too much for them, and I think that's why the Twins pulled the trigger here.
Yep. All right, so the Giants here, they do that one. All right, question for you guys. Which MLB team do you hate the most? Let us know in the comment section. Hater Jimmy's not on air, so now you guys get to hate.
Who's your least favorite team?
Oh,
you just said the Reds and Pirates hate each other.
I
So is it
hate
the Pirates?
the Cardinals.
The Cardinals,
Yeah.
yes. I
Shout
feel
out
like
Tad.
every team in the NL Central hates the Cardinals.
Yeah, I also hate the Pirates right now because the Pirates are being dirty players, so it's fine. All right, more trades here coming in involving my Cincinnati Reds. Scooter Gennett is on his way out to the San Francisco Giants, which I get it from the Reds' perspective, and I'll break that down. But Harrison, can you explain the Giants part?
I don't understand.
Because they just sold.
I know that they were interested in adding infield help. When I did a rumor show a couple weeks ago that they might sell into bullpen arms but get infield help. I think what the Giants have done at this deadline is they've sold, but not too much. They can't still try to win this year. Gennett not having a good year, hitting .212.
He's coming back from that injury.
Yeah, and he's infamously known for the worst player in Major League history to have a 4-home run game.
Hey, doesn't matter.
But
still at 4 homers.
But it still happens. So maybe he provides some utility there for the Giants. I imagine your Reds did not get much in return.
I would assume not, but for the Reds' perspective, this does free up more guaranteed playing time for Jose Peraza and Derek Dietrich.
Definitely.
That makes sense, I think, for them. Also back, McCarthyism is back. Joe McCarthy heading out west to the San Francisco Giants here. We don't yet know what the Rays are giving up here either. I am very curious with this one. This one kind of feels like a lesser minor league type deal.
Yeah, minor league arm and Joe McCarthy. Don't know what's going on the Rays end of things. So weird. There's been several deals at this deadline involving only minor leaguers. That typically does not happen.
It's the new rules.
When you get to when you're talking about the trade deadline again. In high A this year, he's hitting $1.25. So that is not anything to scoff about there. So
He'd better strike out than be red. I don't know. I'm trying to make communism joke, guys. So I'm trying. I'm just not doing a great job there. But again, the big one that came across in the minutes after the deadline ended, clearly they did not, Zack Greinke. Man, going to the Houston Astros. We do not yet know what the Diamondbacks getting. We have been told it is 4 different prospects, though.
And that happened, it became official, on Twitter and all that, 13 minutes after the deadline. That's so bizarre. And I know that it happens before, but that late, that's pretty surprising. Jeff Luhnow, clearly, this could have been one of those things. He's monitoring what every other team is doing, which wasn't much, and he's saying, let's go win. Let's go get Zack Greinke, even if we have to pay a little too much for him. We do that. We are the clear favorites in the American League. I think that was the mindset Jeff Luhnow and the Astros had, and they decided to do it. Again, I would be surprised if Kyle Tucker was a part of that trade, but I think that's the thought process here from Jeff Luhnow. Again, it's going to be 4 prospects for the D-backs. We don't know which 4. Astros have several good ones. I don't imagine Kyle Tucker is one of them, though.
I can mention 2 of the names here, by the way, the number 4 and number 5 prospects in the Astros system. Corbin Martin, he is heading to Arizona. Okay. One of he's their number 5 guy, a right-handed pitcher. And then JB Bukauskas, I hope I pronounced that last name. I probably didn't. Another righty, the number 4 prospect in their system.
So that means they probably kept their best starting pitching prospect, too, in Forrest Whitley.
I've got the other names here as well for you guys. Seth Beer, also heading to Arizona. Okay. And then Josh Rojas, who I'm looking, and I don't see him in their top 30. So 3 of the Astros' top 5 prospects heading to Arizona in this deal. But they got a haul.
They did get a haul, but again, very calculated. They keep their top 2 prospects. Jeff Luhnow does not give up his top guys. And 3 of their top 5, that's a lot to give up. But they're high on Whitley. They're very high on Kyle Tucker.
And frankly, I think Seth Beer was kind of blocked a little bit, too.
Yeah.
And frankly, I think that's true for the 2 pitchers, too, especially if you keep Forrest Whitley and now you bring in Zack.
Well, and that happens a lot of times, especially with position players. You could have an elite shortstop prospect, but if you have Carlos Correa playing shortstop, when's he ever going to see the field? Never.
Exactly.
Alex Bregman had to switch to third base because he was a shortstop guy, and Correa's their guy. So that could have been some of the thought process here. But I think this is a win-win for both sides. Diamondbacks aren't in win-now mode. They get off Greinke's contract. They get 3 good prospects. And the Astros, they get by far the best starter to move at this year's deadline, outside of maybe Stroman, but the Mets aren't a factor. They get him to be their number 2 or 3 starter in October. I think that's a great deal for both sides.
So who will finish with the best record in the AL? Type A for the Astros or Y for the Yankees? You going Houston here, Harrison?
Yeah, right now they both have 39 losses. Astros have 2 more wins. They're 69 and 39. Very nice record there. Of course, the Yankees 67 and 39. I'm going to go Astros. They're healthy. That starting rotation is lethal now. I love their lineup. Correa starting to get back. He just came back last week as he's been hurt a lot of the season. Springer was hurt earlier this year. He's back. They're getting healthy at the right time, and they just added a really good starting pitcher. Give me the Astros. I think they win the American League.
All right, guys, keep those votes flowing in the comments section. Time now to use hashtag MLB to get your questions on the show. We'll take all types of MLB questions. I will defer to Harrison for most of them here. He does know more about baseball than I do. Fun fact. So use hashtag MLB down there in the comments. I've still got almost 400 people watching live right now. So use hashtag MLB. That is how you get your questions live on the show here. Hashtag MLB. Excited for this, Harrison?
Yeah, and
we have never done an MLB mailbag before. First time ever.
And keep in mind, the deadline's passed, so you can't add any new talent at this point. So don't ask, can the Yankees...
Say that, but you owe me $2.
Yeah, well... 26 minutes. If any more deals happen, I'll pay you $10.
All right, let's go. Someone make a deal.
But if you're asking if Madison Bumgarner is going to get moved, it didn't happen. So
Bumgarner's not gone.
World Series favorite questions, what thoughts about trades that did happen. Those are the kind of questions we're looking for. So again, use hashtag MLB to get your questions on the show. Tom and I will do our best to give our insight and analysis on that question.
As we continue to wait for the actual details here to come in for a lot of them as well, because those just haven't happened yet at this point. So again, use hashtag MLB like Dark Lord did. He said it's tough being a Mariners fan. What can happen so the Mariners can be good?
I don't know, man. You go the Astros route and you tank and you try to build through the draft, which is a lot harder. Everybody always says that, the Astros did it. You have to land on several players. I mean, think about it.
That's tough to do.
They land on Altuve, best second baseman in baseball. Land on Correa. He's been hurt some. Elite shortstop, though. You get Bregman. You get all these guys, and then you trade for guys. You get Verlander. you groom Dallas Keuchel, who's gone now. But that's the way you do it. You build through your farm, and then when the time comes, you trade for good players. I get it. It's tough right now if you're a Mariners fan. It's tough for a lot of teams out there, but you just got to trust the process and hope that you get enough good young talent that you can groom through the minors.
It's going to take time. That minor league farm system is not in great shape.
The Astros had the worst record in baseball for like 4 straight years. It takes time.
All right, from Z, wants to know if the Astros will regret trading for Zack Greinke.
If they don't win a World Series this year or next, probably.
Okay, that's fair.
But at the end of the day, they're going to look at themselves and be like, "Hey, we tried to win." I don't think they're regretting it right now. Certainly, you get a solid, proven starting pitcher, probably the best one to get moved over this entire trade period. I'll say no because I think they're the favorites to win it this year. They're still going to be in the mix next year as well. So I'll say no. But obviously, if they don't win a World Series while he's in Houston, then there could be a little bit of regret there.
Yeah, I think it's a worthwhile gamble, but any trade you make, almost any trade you make, really is a gamble there.
Yeah.
All right, from JR's Toy Show, what do you think about the Twins bullpen?
The Twins bullpen. They added Melancon, correct? Is that the move that happened there? I like their bullpen. I don't love their bullpen, and I really don't love their rotation. They have maybe, outside of the Yankees and Astros, they have the best lineup in baseball. I don't know if you saw any of that series with the Yankees.
Yeah.
It's like 14 to 12 games. So,
look, Chicks did the long ball, so do I.
Yeah, they need more pitching. I wish they would have made more moves at the deadline. Yep. From Braden, who can the Cardinals trade for? Guys, again,
kind of late.
That trade deadline has passed. They were pretty quiet overall.
I do want to make note, though, the Max Stassi trade is now done. He's going to the Angels. So does that count? Does that count as Harrison owing me $10?
No.
Producer, type Y for yes and for no.
We already knew that deal was happening. Come on.
It wasn't confirmed.
Come on.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm getting broke as we do Q&A.
Yeah,
Justin.
Worst MLB trade deadline.
Yankees. Oh, you're just saying as a whole.
I thought he just meant, it was the worst trade deadline. And
I'll say the worst team was the Yankees.
We'll do winners and losers here in a little bit. Yankees, I think, make some sense. I'll also make note, I think the Zack Greinke trade alone saved this deadline.
Yes.
And I'll use our central time here, from 1:30 to 3 o'clock, this was a terrible trade deadline.
This was a dud.
And then it kind of got a little bit bonkers at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Zack
It's fun.
Greinke getting moved 13 minutes after the deadline, certainly salvaged.
It's not
things.
quite Yu Darvish, but it's pretty damn close.
So I don't think you can say it was the worst now.
I don't think you
Greinke
can.
got moved, I don't think you can say it was the worst, but type W if you think this was the worst trade deadline that you can remember.
Yeah, it's up there. It's still not a great one. But the Greinke trade ended up saving it in the end. So did the Castellanos trade. Even Scooter Gennett, I think, helps. At least he's a somewhat known name, I feel like.
People have heard of him.
Maybe that's just me being the Reds fan. I know who Scooter Gennett is.
Scooter Gennett, big fan of his work.
All right, Diego Nunez, what do you think about the Dodgers? Also, shout out Diego. Want to know how I know Diego is a longtime Chat Sports fan? Look at that profile pic. That is from last year's NBA free agency breaking news show.
Oh.
LeBron James signing with the Lakers. So shout out you, Diego.
Hey, big fan of people who have been with us for a long time at Chat Sports. What I think about is that they're the favorites in the National League. That's my thought. I'm a little disappointed they didn't get more involved at the trade deadline. I thought they should have added a bullpen piece or two, but very quiet for them. But they're still going to be a tough out. I think they will likely represent the NL in the World Series.
All right, from Rishi, will the Giants make the postseason? I'll take this one here. I have a tough time seeing it happen. I know that they've really kind of rallied of late here, 54 and 53. They kind of were up and down in terms of their selling and buying at the trade deadline. They're not that far out of the playoff race, but they have to deal with the Phillies. They have to deal with the Nationals still. You have to deal with the Cubs. I think they finish as the second or third team out.
I'd like to see it. It's Bochy's last year.
Me too.
Giants are a fun, Bumgarner's a fun guy to root for, but I would be surprised. I think they're on the outside looking in.
All right, from Joshua, the best gamer, what do you think about the Boston Red Sox? I'm a little disappointed so far.
They should have gotten more involved too.
You got to play catch up. It's weird to say this out loud, but they're behind the Rays. Even in the wild card race. They're definitely in the thick of it, and I have faith in them because I know that they're still a really great team, but they kind of got to get going here.
Yeah, we keep saying, oh, they'll get on track. Well, we're 120-ish games into the season now. Like, the time is now. Like, we're into August starting tomorrow. So my thought is if they get in, they're going to be dangerous. They're the World Series, reigning champs. But there's a chance they don't make it. Like, Chris Sale has not had a good year. David Price has been up and down. Like, their bullpen's been a mess. Porcello's been a disaster this year. He has not been good. So those arms got to figure things out, especially since they didn't go get any arms at the deadline.
All right, from Deer Crasher 12, do you think the Cardinals will make it to the NLDS? Well, Deer, I assume you're a Cardinals fan. So I'll be nice because I don't like the St. Louis Cardinals just because I'm a Reds fan. I do think that they have a pretty decent chance, though, just because let's assume that they do win the NL Central. It puts them in position. Like there's a chance for it. I think it might be a little bit on the unlikely side.
I just don't think they have the horses to make a run. They might win the division again, but that division, it's middling. I mean, 56-49 is kind of, is winning that division right now. I don't think a team in the NL Central gets to the NLCS. Like, I think it'll be the Dodgers and the Braves, most likely.
All right, from Birdflock, who, shocker, is a Baltimore fan, why didn't the O's make a move?
Well, they weren't going to buy.
Because they're the O's.
Yeah, they're trash, so they weren't going to buy.
Should they have traded Trey Mancini?
Maybe. How much are you getting for him? I guess. I mean, the reality is Baltimore teams like give Detroit credit. They traded Shane Greene. They could have traded Mancini and at least gotten something for him. So I don't know what to tell you, Bird Flock. The Orioles are in a very, very bad place right now.
All right, folks. It's weird for me for the Orioles there. It's going to take a long-term rebuilding period there, Bird Flock. So I'm sorry about that one there. All right, Connor Guck, hopefully I've got the last name right. It's not like Juk or something. Can the Phillies win the World Series? Maybe let's focus on them making the postseason first, Yeah,
I mean, they're kind of stuck in the middle of the National League of teams contending for those wild card slots. No, they cannot win the World Series, especially if Arrieta doesn't get back and healthy. He already wasn't throwing the ball well this year. Then he gets hurt. I just don't think they have the pitching to get there.
All right, here's the NL wildcard race, by the way. The Phillies are tied with the Cubs right now, so they're right in the thick of it. Brewers a game back. That's going to be fun coming down the stretch, by the way. Like, that is tightly compacted there.
Yeah, it's very competitive, and I'm curious to see if the Giants have a push in them. They sold a little bit. They bought a little bit. They were kind of that team that, going into the deadline, would they buy? Would they sell? Well, they did a little bit of both. They keep their main guys, though, in Bumgarner, Will Smith. They do trade Sam Dyson, so that's certainly going to be a bit of a loss for them as well. But they brought in Scooter Gennett to be a utility man for them. So I think when it's all said and done, if I'm looking at this, I'm going to go with – I think the Cubs win the Central, actually. So I'll say the Cardinals and the Nationals are your two wildcard teams.
All right, Alabama, Atlanta, shocker here with a question about the Braves. He wants to know about the Braves bullpen there. That's a good question there, Harrison.
Yeah, the Braves, obviously you get Shane Greene. That's a huge addition. So I like what they did there. Their bullpen,
and Mark, too.
Yeah, their bullpen is pretty nice, but you needed
good pickups.
Yeah, you needed. Not necessarily needed. I would have liked to see them get a Zack Wheeler type, not necessarily a high-end starter, but a guy that you can throw in as your Game 3 starter and at least feel comfortable with. But I like that bullpen there in Atlanta. I think they're the biggest threats to the Dodgers in the National League.
Donnie wants to know if Bryce Harper is a baby when it comes to getting hit. Well, players don't like getting hit at all.
I think baseball players...
That is 100 mile an hour at times. Baseball hitting you in wherever, that hurts.
Yeah, I do think sometimes baseball players and just all these unwritten rules, I do feel like it's soft
at
times. It's very soft. It's very 1960s.
Let them play, let them fight.
I like the brawl last night. Awesome.
Also, it's hilarious to me, by the way, that it's the Pirates. Chris Archer says, let the guys play, and then he's throwing at players in terms of balancing the unwritten rule there.
Who would win in a fight?
Reds or Pirates?
Brawl last night.
First off, the Reds are great fighters. They've shown that time and time again against the Pirates. I remember Brandon Phillips spiking dudes against the Cardinals.
Garrett clocked that first guy he hit last night. He absolutely
Give me the Reds.
That he's going to get suspended for
Pirates?
He's going
to get suspended for so long.
Yeah,
Pirates started it, though.
Yeah. They're the instigators.
Cardinals don't like the Pirates either.
It's not who starts it. It's who gets caught, and the Reds got caught last night. Donnie Hannum.
Yeah.
Bryce,
RP.
or Trash Channel, let's go to him. What are the Brewers doing? I don't know.
They were pretty quiet.
I would have liked to see them add a starter.
Should have added Will Smith because time is a flat circle.
Exactly. Yeah, they could have added a bullpen piece. They need pieces in general. Yeah. I think the Brewers, they're going to fight for that wild card spot. I like their lineup, but their pitching is abysmal. I don't see them going very far.
All right, Brady Richer, what do you think about the Astros trade? Or the trades, I guess, is probably the better term there.
I love it.
I'm sure you do.
Zack Greinke, look, you gave up 3 of your top 5 guys, but you're in your window right now, the Astros. Like, the Astros have been very deliberate as they have built this thing. They've stood pat at some times in the past, but starting with the Verlander move a couple of years ago, they've gotten very aggressive. But they've done so in a deliberate way where they're trying not to overpay on trade. So you keep your top 2 prospects in Forrest Whitley and Kyle Tucker. Yeah, you give up your next 3 guys, but you get Zack Greinke, who has an ERA of under 3 and is a proven starting pitcher in this league. Like, I like that. I like the kind of depth additions that they added as well, and Aaron Sanchez and a couple of other guys. So I think the Astros probably are the biggest winner of this year's trade
I've
deadline.
been pretty impressed by the moves that they made. I think the late deadline chaos was very beneficial there to Houston. Yep. Donnie back again, wants to know who is the best pitcher between Shane Greene or I assume you mean Chris Archer. I don't know of another Archer.
Archer really has not been great since the Rays dealt him. Shane Greene, elite bullpen arm. I think he's a much better pitcher in terms of trying to win in October at this point. So I will go with Shane Greene over Chris Archer.
I think it depends on what you want. If you're just going like general pitcher, I think Shane Greene. But obviously, if you want a starter,
Shane
you
Greene's
need to go with Chris Archer. If you need a bullpen arm, you need to go with Shane Greene there instead. All right, guys, I am Tom Downey. That is Harrison Graham. Let's recap some winners and losers here from the MLB Trade Deadline and break down all of the trades that happened today as well. So we'll focus here with the positive side of things. Harrison, let's do winners to start because we're going to get to the negative ones in a little bit because, frankly, I think there are quite a few notable negative losers here. But we are going to focus up here with the winners from the 2019 MLB Trade Deadline. First up, the Houston Astros.
Yeah, and it should be of note, Tom, that things got hectic late. And by late, I mean after the deadline officially passed. Of course, deadline. It's got to be in air quotes now because most of the big deals happened after 3 o'clock Central Time. Astros clearly the biggest winners for me, Tom.
Yeah.
You get Zack Greinke. You get Aaron Sanchez. You add a couple of other pieces. I really like what the Astros did, and obviously getting Zack Greinke is the home run hit of this deadline.
Oh, yeah, that was the most notable trade that, frankly, came out of left field. No one saw that one coming.
Yeah.
That wasn't even rumored.
No.
At least not that I saw, leading up to today.
I don't remember. Yeah, like a few weeks ago, Greinke.
There'd been
but
some
they
buzz,
faded significantly.
Oh, yeah, it was like, no one's going to pay our asking price.
Yeah, like in the last week or so, Greinke was not part of it. Of course, the Diamondbacks get Corbin Martin, J.B. Buskakis, Seth Beer, and Rojas there. Those top 3 guys, 3 of the Astros' top 5 prospects. Astros do keep Kyle Tucker and Forrest Whitley, so I think good balance there on both ends. Diamondbacks get 3 solid prospects. Yep. Astros get the proven starter in Zack Greinke.
So who will finish with the best record in the AL? Type A for the Astros, Y for the Yankees. Let us know in the comment section. I'm going to go with the Astros.
Yeah.
And I think you are as well.
Yeah, the starting pitching is just the difference, man.
Yeah.
It really is. I think the Yankees have a slightly better bullpen and maybe a slightly better lineup, but the Astros can hit. They've got a good bullpen as well. But you look at the starting rotation. Game 1, Verlander versus Tanaka, advantage Houston. Game 2, Garrett Cole versus Jay Happ maybe, or Domingo Germán, whoever it is. I'm leaning Houston there. Game 3, probably Greinke is going to be that guy. Yankees don't have anybody that can match up with him.
They better get some guys back quickly.
They just need guys to pitch better. Like, since they didn't make any moves at the deadline, they got to get guys to pitch better within, and it's hard to outslug teams in a 7-game series, and that's why I'm going advantage Houston.
All right, next up on the winners, the Atlanta Braves, as they made some moves to acquire some bullpen help.
Yeah, Shane Greene, most notable bullpen arm moving at this year's trade deadline. Really good bullpen piece, ERA under 1.2. I like what the Braves have done. to try and make themselves legitimate threats in the National League and perhaps as a sleeper team for the World Series. I would have liked to see them maybe add a starter as well, but getting Shane Greene to bolster that bullpen, a good move for the Atlanta Braves, Tom.
So are the Braves a World Series threat? Type Y for yes and type N for no. What do you say, Harrison?
They're like a second-tier threat because I still don't think they're up there with the Astros and the Dodgers and Yankees. But since they're in the National League, I'll give them a puncher's chance because I think they're the second.
Wrong sport, but okay.
I think they're the second best team in the NL. So overall, I would say no based on talent, but they got an outside shot perhaps. But the gap between them and the top 2 or 3 teams is fairly significant.
I see mostly N's flowing in right now in the live chat. Next up, the New York Mets.
Yeah, I think you have to consider them winners because while it was a puzzling deadline for them, you add Marcus Stroman, who's got a year of arbitration control.
And they didn't give up that much for him.
You keep Syndergaard, you keep Wheeler, so you look at that rotation moving forward, it's formidable in 2020 and beyond. I don't think they're going to make a push this year. I think they're 6 games out of that NL wild card. They're not going to get there this year, but 2020 and beyond, I think you'd have to call them winners. And the Jays get Anthony Kay, Simeon Woods Richardson in that deal for Stroman that happened a few days ago.
Both those guys are now top 10 in the Blue Jays farm system.
Yeah, so I mean, I think a good trade for both sides. Stroman's still only 28 years old, having a very good season. So while they're not like home run winners because they're not trying to do it for this year per se, I think overall, with the core they have moving forward, especially in that rotation, I think you could call them winners here.
Should the Mets have been sellers, though? Type 1 for yes, 2 for no down there in the comments section.
It's hard to say, man. We'll know this time next year if they're contending.
Cop-out answer.
If they're contending next year, then no, they did the right thing. But if they're about the same or maybe slightly better, then yeah, they probably should have sold. I'm guessing either they weren't getting the type of looks for Syndergaard they had hoped, so they said, we'll just keep him, we'll go get Stroman, and we'll try to contend in 2020.
Your final winner here, Harrison, the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, and they kind of did, they kind of bought some and sold some, but I think overall, I would call them winners because I think it was still the move to try and win this year. It's Bruce Bochy's last year, and it's going to be tough in the National League, but you have Madison Bumgarner. If you could just find a way to get to the playoffs with that guy, every time he's on the mound, he's going to give you a chance. You kept Will Smith, and you sold like some middle tier type pieces, like a Sam Dyson. You moved on from him. So I think you found a way to sell without taking yourself out of the hunt, and I think that's the key for the Giants this year. And guys, it should be of note, like, we're digging deep on some of these winners.
The first two were obvious.
It's a fairly quiet trade deadline overall. If it wasn't for the Greinke delay, it would have been very quiet. But question for you guys, should the Giants have traded Madison Bumgarner? I'm leaning no. I like that they kept him.
I don't think that they could have.
Yeah.
They needed to keep him.
Yeah.
So who do you guys think won the MLB trade deadline? Let us know in the comments section. Positive comments only right now. We'll get to the losers here in a little bit. But who won the MLB trade deadline? Obviously, we went through our first 4. I've seen some Indians, even some Marlins in there. Okay. Who do you think won, though?
See, and that's another thing when you're talking about winners. It's hard to project for the teams who got prospects in return.
I see the D-backs in there, but they were weird with their other moves.
For the obvious reason of you don't know what those prospects are going to be. Like the Tigers could end up being, big winners if some of those guys they got back pan out, but we just don't know right now. But keep those flying in. Got some Mets, Marlins, Yankees lost. Teaser, MLB trade deadline losers, the Yankees.
Number 1, the New York Yankees here. I am on board with this because they didn't do anything.
Alfredo Garcia?
They didn't do anything.
They added a minor league bullpen type of piece. That is not what you're looking for if you're a Yankees fan. I think the Stroman thing really threw them off.
I think it did.
Because I think they were in big time on Stroman, and the Mets decided to get him a few days before the deadline.
Maybe the 2 top starting pitchers that were openly available, and not including Greinke there, went to non-contenders.
Yeah. And it was kind of
so weird.
And it was kind of twofold because once the Mets got Stroman, that basically made Syndergaard unavailable.
Yeah,
that's
true.
another guy that could.
Or at least the asking price was so absurdly high. Robbie Ray was on the trade deadline or on the trade block.
They were asking for an arm and a leg,
and then they got it for Zack Greinke.
Yeah, exactly. So look, I'm not going to totally blame the Yankees for not just overpaying, but you had to do something. Like this rotation, Tom.
It's not going to be enough.
It's just not going to get it done, and you can't. Bullpens wear out late in the year. Like, you can't have your starters going 3, 4, 5 innings night after night in October. Like, that's a lot of mileage this bullpen is already having taken on at that point. So I'm disappointed in what they've done. You look at the World Series odds as I believe these have been updated, Tom. So
yes.
The Dodgers and Astros plus 300 is co-favorites. I agree with that. I think the Astros are slightly better, but the Dodgers have that easier path to the World Series. So I understand why those are the same. Yankees slipped, and for good reason. Didn't make any moves at the deadline. Braves moved up a little bit, I think. I think they were plus 950 before. They're plus 900. Then you got the Twins, a distant fifth there. But I think the reshuffling at the top makes sense, especially in the Yankees' case. They stood pat, and that is just not going to be good enough, I don't think.
We had 2 winners on that from our favorites here. Those were the Astros and Braves. 2 losers as well. The Dodgers also check in here, Harrison.
Yeah, they didn't do much. They didn't do really anything. I thought, like, the Braves getting Shane Greene instead of the Dodgers is that's a big loss for the Dodgers for a couple reasons. One, it gets the Braves closer to them, and 2, the Dodgers need reliable bullpen arms to win a World Series. They don't have many right now. Their closer, Kenley Jansen, is not what he was. He's still a good piece back there, but they're biting their teeth every time you get into the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings.
Is this going to be 3 straight years of the Dodgers coming up just short?
It could be
winning the NL.
It could be because, and it's frustrating if you're a Dodgers fan because you've got Walker Buehler, electric young starting pitcher. Clayton Kershaw still getting it done, although he hadn't been great in October, of course. Kenta Maeda's had a good year. Hyun-Jin Ryu has been one of the best starting pitchers in baseball, but the bullpen is abysmal. You got Cody Bellinger in that lineup. Like, you've got everything you need, but you got to add bullpen, and they did not do it, Tom.
All right, the common theme here of our trade deadline losers, they didn't do anything. The Texas Rangers, they didn't sell.
Yeah, I don't understand this from John Daniels and the Rangers front office. Like, you've got clear aging pieces that are not part of your future, and you're in a rebuild. I know, heading into the deadline, it was like, oh, maybe the Rangers will be buyers. They were playing with house money. They were overachieving. Like, you've got, Mike Minor all of a sudden isn't pitching as well. His value's never going to be higher than it was at this deadline.
Yeah.
He's 32 years old. Like, if you're not moving him now, when are you going to move him? And yeah, okay, he's your ace heading into next season. That's great. This is probably not a team contending next year. You think they're challenging the Astros next year?
Hunter Pence should have been flipped.
Hunter Pence is 36 years old. Like, Sean Kelly, their closer, is 35 years old, having a good season. These are not pieces of the future. Like, even if you don't get a ton in return, like, you got to add minor leaguers for these guys. Most of those guys aren't even going to be on the team next year. Mike Minor will be, but Hunter Pence, Sean Kelly, probably not on this roster in 2020. I don't understand this. You could have moved Nomar Mazara as well, who teams were interested in. They didn't.
His value's pretty low, though, I feel like.
It's not great. Maybe that's why you keep him there. But
should have dealt Hunter Pence so you can get, what's his name? I'm trying to blink on the guy that they just sent down.
Willie Calhoun.
Yeah, that one.
You want to give these young guys opportunities, and instead they're going to keep rolling out these 33-year-olds. Like, it does not make sense if you're the Texas Rangers. And I guess offers weren't what they wanted them to be, but only moving Chris Martin the night before the deadline, I don't like it. I think they should have done more. Like, go all in.
Yeah. All right, so who was the single biggest loser of this year's MLB trade deadline? It was actually us up until it ended, then it all got crazy. Because it would have been boring.
I mean, when 3 o'clock came and passed, we were like, oh, at least Shane Greene happened. But then Zack Greinke flies in, a couple other deals fly in, and it salvaged our show here. But want to hear from you guys in the chat. We'll get a couple of shout-outs going.
I see lots of Yankees in there.
It's got to be. The Yankees are the biggest loser. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you had to get a starting pitcher, and you did not do so. That is a failure on their part. Chicago Cubs, I like that
I think they're a loser.
I think they're in the middle because you added.
I think even more
getting Castellanos. I think that was a good get for them. Keep those comments. Joey Gallo would have been. Yeah, the Rangers are not trading Joey Gallo. Like, I'm not going to rip him for that.
No.
Padres lost.
They give him a lot to get Taylor Trammell, who I believe the Reds were kind of waffling on and tried to sell high on him because he was not having a good season.
See, I think the Padres are in a tough spot because they still feel like in the coming years they're going to win. Yeah. So they're not looking to move like big time pieces. I think that's why they ended up keeping Kirby Yates.
Mm-hmm. Trade time now. Let's recap all the ones that have happened. The Angels and Astros, another minor one here, so we won't spend too much time on. But Max Stassi going to the Angels there.
Yeah, and this makes sense because the Astros, which we'll show in a minute, got Martin Maldonado back, a guy they traded for last year to be their backup catcher. They got Robinson Trianos as their starter, so this makes some sense there.
Giants Reds, Scooter Gennett goes to the Giants in exchange for our good friend cash consideration.
Yeah, Scooter Gennett, he'll be a utility guy for the Giants, can offer some power to the plate. Hadn't had a great year. He's been hurt some, as you mentioned. Not too much to see here. We'll see how much cash that ends up being.
All right, the Giants and Rays, another minor trade. Joe McCarthy. McCarthyism is good and alive here.
Yeah, the classic. This is going to be known as the minor league trade deadline. That is what you're seeing here in Joe McCarthy.
The Twins and the Giants here. The Twins getting Sam Dyson. Giants get a bunch of players whose names I can't pronounce.
Yeah, 3, I'm assuming prospects there. I've never heard of any of those guys.
I will quickly check just so I can let you guys know if they're in the top 30 of the Twins system.
I like this move for the Twins because they needed bullpen help. Dyson's a good sinker ball guy, throws mid-high 90s. They needed bullpen pieces. That makes sense there. For the Giants, again, they bought some, they sold some, kind of did enough to stay competitive this year, but maybe also bolster their future as
These
well.
guys are not in the top 30 for the Twins, so not a whole lot going back there in terms of the top prospects for the Giants. All right, the Rays and Dodgers here. What do you make of this one? Minor?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Kolarek. When that's your big move for the Dodgers, that's why they're losers on the trade deadline. They didn't do enough. He's a decent arm, but not going to be enough to move the needle for me.
The big one, though, the Houston Astros and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Greinke goes to Houston along with $24 million in cash. The D-backs then get 3 of the top 5 prospects in the Astros farm system in Seth Beer, JB, and Corbin Martin.
That makes it even better for the Astros because the Diamondbacks are basically eating some of Greinke's salary there because he's owed $64 million over the next 2 years, and then I guess about $15-16 million the rest of this season. So they're covering about a third of what he's owed on the remaining of his contract. That's a pretty sweet little deal there for Houston.
All right, the Cubs also made a trade after the deadline had ended because they got involved here. Nick Castellanos, he goes to the Cubs. That was the big part there. 2 other players, Paul Richan and Alex Lange, going to the Tigers. Wasn't Lange a very recent first-round pick?
Alex Lange, I watched him pitch at the College World Series a couple of years ago for LSU. Really good right-handed arm. I like this for Detroit. I think he's got think number 3 type potential. Okay. He'll never be an ace at the major league level, but he mid fastball's got a good breaking stuff. I think he can be a number 3 type of starter down the line. I think that's good return there for the Tigers.
Just note, Paul Richan is the number 16 prospect, and then Lang was the number 23 from the Cubs system.
I'm surprised he's that low. Yeah, that surprises me. I think he's got good potential.
All right, the Diamondbacks also traded for Mike Leake, and I don't really know why. That was a weird one.
Maybe it's a combination of things. They knew they were moving Greinke, so they bought probably pretty low from the Mariners in Leake, and they got to finish the season. Someone's got to eat innings for them. So if they didn't give up much for him, I can understand why that makes some sense there.
Rays and Marlins also agreed to a trade here. Nick Anderson, I think the most notable prospect involved.
Shout out minor league trade again. Yeah, I mean, Richardson and Anderson going to the Rays, Stanek and Sanchez to the Marlins. I'm sure we'll hear some of these names down the road, but as of now, it doesn't mean too much.
Sanchez is the notable player there from the Rays. He is number 4 in their system.
Okay.
So that's
Marlins did a couple of trades where they're getting some top prospects.
I'm actually surprised. Sanchez is 42 overall.
The Rays always have good prospects.
System.
Always.
Yeah,
so
that's interesting there.
Good
All
return
right,
there for
Yankees and Rockies, a very minor trade.
Yeah, shout out Yankees for trading for Alfredo Garcia. That's your big move of the day. Joseph Harvey heading back to the Rockies. Minor league trade here. Nothing much to see.
All right, Aaron Sanchez also going to the Houston Astros here.
Yeah. Should be fair to note there that was part of one trade. So, Derek Fisher going to the Blue Jays, not the former NBA point guard.
Older man, a fisherman?
Was just waiting for Jimmy Crowther to chime in there. But, Joe Biagini, a decent bullpen piece. He can help eat some innings in the pen there. Sanchez, probably a long man for this year's playoff run. Fisher, he is a 4th outfielder type. Good speed, pinch runner type for, moving forward. Maybe he has I'll put it this way. He got lost in the Astros system. Too much talent there.
Ladies and gentlemen, Harrison owes me $10 because this came in way after our bet. Dan Straley goes to Philadelphia. The Orioles get our good friends cash considerations.
Dan Straley is not worth $5, much
Well,
less $10.
it was 2 of them, actually, because Carl Edwards has also
He's been
dealt.
terrible this year.
He goes to the Padres as the Cubs give him up because they didn't really need him at all.
Speaking of Carl Edwards, he was awesome.
NASCAR,
And
sorry.
in that World Series run in 2016, everybody's like, man, this guy's going to be the next big thing. Like, big closer. Has not panned out. Padres hoping they can revitalize his career.
All right, so the Padres get Carl Edwards, a buy low move from them. The Cubs didn't really need him there a whole lot in the end, so I'm very interested in terms of how that one went down. So those were all of the notable trades that happened today as part of the MLB Trade Deadline. I'll be honest here, there were some minor league trade ones as well. So we'll wrap up here with a little fun weigh-in for you guys. Do you like bat flips? Y for yes, N for no. Harrison, I will preface by saying there is one correct answer.
Yes. If you don't like bat flips,
You hate fun.
If you don't like bat,
You're probably a communist.
if you don't like bat flips, you were born in 1947.
I love Derek Dietrich. I love it when he pimps every single home run.
The Jose Bautista home run over the
Yes.
Rangers. Like, Ranger fans will always hate Bautista. That was the dopest bat flip of all time.
All right, see, mostly yeses coming in. We appreciate that, guys. Make sure you are subscribed here on YouTube, and we thank you all for watching our MLB Trade Deadline live special.